I mean, normally they would want it at that, but...
All right, let's everybody stand, please, and we'll get started. Please join me in a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this opportunity again to come and serve our county and our country. Lord, I thank you that you love us and care for us. I pray that, Lord, you give us wisdom and insight tonight, Lord, to do and see what needs to be done in the county, and Lord, to help each one of us, give us wisdom beyond that we could ever hope for. Lord, I just ask that you bless all that's here, those that can't, the shut-ins. Lord, I ask that you bless our military as they're overseas fighting for our freedom so that we can be here tonight and do the things that we do. Lord, I ask these things in your holy name. Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, just so everybody understands what we're doing, we're having an executive session that we're going to adjourn from this meeting and move over. We're going to go right around the corner here into the back room, if you will, and hold the executive session to talk about the Log Creek LLC et al. Versus Howard Kessel et al. In this case. So we'll move at this time. We'll adjourn this session.
Let me put one thing on the record, and that is just the request that your attorney and your special counsel, we request advice from the board concerning settlement or litigation expenditures related to possible settlement. And so we are requesting a shade session.
Okay. So do we need a motion to do that, or just we adjourn and go right?
Yeah, I mean, it's scheduled and it's been noticed. We'll have the members of the board, your interim administrator, county attorney, Joe Schreiber, who's special counsel, and a certified court reporter. And these are confidential, and the record from the meeting will remain outside of the public records until the conclusion of the litigation.
Okay. Joe, do you have anything to add before we move in?
Chairman Stewart, may it please Commissioners, there's one glitch here because it has to be recorded, and my court reporter is supposed to be here.
She's back there.
All right. Send her back earlier.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, with that, we'll close this part of the meeting and we'll move in the back. Folks, y'all are welcome to stay out here and stay warm, and then we'll come back in and open the meeting back up. Okay, we have adjourned from the, if we can get everybody to quiet down, please, we'll get started with the regular meeting. We have adjourned from the special session, and now we're into the regular meeting, and we've already had the prayer and the pledge, so we'll get right on to business here. The first is the approval of the agenda. Is there any changes? I'll start down here with Mr. Merritt. No changes from Mr. Merritt? No. Mr. Brock?
I had a brief award and presentation announcement at the beginning.
More? Any changes to the agenda?
Yes, I would like to pull off my request.
Under discussion items?
Under Commissioner agenda items. Item number 24.
Okay. So just
Strike it.
strike it. Okay. Ms. Arts?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add an announcement that will be given by Detective Ashley.
Okay.
We aren't ready for you yet. Sorry.
We'll get there. And I'd like to add one under volunteer fire department's going to make a short presentation to us about concerning Station 2 and Station 9. So we'll do that as well under awards and presentations. Okay, any more changes?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask to pull number 9 from consent just for discussion. I have some additional clarification to add. And I have one other county attorney item. I'm going to ask for the board to appoint a commissioner to represent the county in settlement negotiations regarding the Log Creek matter.
Any other changes, County Administrator?
No, sir.
Okay.
Move to approve the agenda.
Motion by Mr. Brock to approve with changes. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Merritt. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the first item is the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're requesting board approval to conduct a public hearing and adopt the resolution of intent to use the uniform method of collection for assessments to fund fire, solid waste, stormwater, road maintenance and improvements, clean energy and wind-resistant improvements, and other neighborhood improvements, facilities, and associated services. What this is under state statute, in order to use the tax bill collection method for next year, for the tax bill that would go out November of 2011, you have to adopt a resolution of intent that you're going to potentially use that. It does not obligate you to impose assessments. It does not obligate you to even look at imposing assessments for any of these facilities or services. It merely preserves your right.
Move to conduct the public hearing and adopt the resolution of intent to use the uniform method of collection for assessments to fire, solid waste, stormwater, road maintenance and improvements, clean energy and wind resistance improvements, and other neighborhood improvements, facilities, and associated services.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Brock and second by Ms. Arch. Before we hear the commissioners, we'll hear the citizens. Alexandra Weiss. Just please state your name and your address, and you got 3 minutes.
Less than 3 minutes. My name is Alexandra Weiss, 72 Kinsey, and I am the president of the Buck Forest Homeowners Association, and we look forward to this possibly being implemented as a possible way that we could utilize funds, get funds to pave the subdivision to make life better for the community. Thank you. How's that?
Thank you, ma'am. Larry Roberts.
Larry Roberts, Sop Chappie. Realizing that this is proposed to be available in the future, I think it paves the way for bigger and better things, and it is frightening. It hadn't been long since we had a workshop on fire MSBU and solid waste MSBU. I don't think the public was very happy about the way the fire MSBU was resolved. They were avidly against solid waste, and you three that were here, recall you chose not to incorporate that. It adds stormwater, road maintenance improvements, and I know what those are. Clean energy and wind resistant improvements. I'm not really sure how that would affect the county. No energy is really clean, some cleaner than others, unless, and I don't know how we do unless the county is expected to build a wind farm or a solar array and start producing electricity. And there again, wind-resistant improvements, I'm a little bit in the dark about what we're talking about here. The term other neighborhood improvements, facilities, and associated services, that leaves the door open for all sorts of taxation. And I hope those people out there in TV land are watching and listening and realize what is about to happen to them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, discussion?
I just want to recognize again and to thank Buck Forest for coming out tonight. One of the things that we've done last year was move forward so that neighborhoods can choose to impose an MSBU on themselves, and we have to pass this tonight so they can do that to help charge themselves a tax to improve their neighborhood. For places like Buck Forest, who is looking to maybe pave the road this year, Summerwind and Summerwood, who are both looking to do the same thing. So I know there are other places that might be interested also.
Okay. Any other comments?
Heather, just to reiterate, this simply provides a methodology to collect a MSBU if the board even decides to do one. Is that correct?
That's correct. It really preserves a potential collection mechanism.
It's not a dollar amount.
No, and in fact, you would still have to come back and have an initial resolution. There'd be a study. You'd have to send notice to everyone who would be affected, have a final public hearing. This is merely the first step, and it allows you to proceed if the board desires.
Is this required by state statute also?
Yes.
I thought so. Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next is the awards and presentations. I'm I'm going to, I didn't mention this, but I'm going to do it, take the liberty to do this. I want to just tell you about something that's coming up with the Historical Society. The Wakulla County Historical Society and Museum are holding an open house on Tuesday, December 14th. If you don't know, the Historical Society building is directly behind us here in the old jail, the very old jail. This is an old jail too, but this is the very old one. It's on Tuesday, December 14th from 6 to 8 p.m. Admittance is free and light refreshments will be served. They feature revolving exhibits, which currently are the McLeod Room exhibit, Pete Gerald's Turpentine exhibit, Sop Choppy exhibit, Old Stores of Wakulla County, R.E. Whaley exhibit, Genealogy Research, and the Identity exhibit. The People's exhibit of Wakulla County. You can come out and identify photos of people, places, and events. And I want to encourage you, if you haven't been lately, you need to go look at it. They have done a really nice job over there, the folks who have worked at that. And I go in there quite often and visit, and I'm impressed by what they have brought in, pictures and how they've identified stuff that was around when I was a young boy and had forgotten about. So if you want to at least reminisce about what Wakulla used to look like and the functions that went on here, I encourage you to go look and see. Come see the progress the Wakulla County Historical Society is making in preserving and displaying our history, and they also feature a gift shop. Okay? Yes, sir.
I have
Go ahead.
The Wakulla Coalition for Youth is accepting donations of new or nearly new items for needy families. They will be collecting those items at 4518 Crawfordville Highway, and that's at the Southeastern Storage Building, which is across the street from Lake Ellen Baptist Church. And you may call Nancy Culp. Do you have the telephone number for Miss Culp?
That's the coalition number.
Yes.
He's giving a presentation.
Okay. Sorry.
You go ahead.
Bruce Ashley, 69 Smokehouse Road, serving as the president of the Coalition for Youth. We realize the need in the community this holiday season for folks, and we've really cranked this up in the last week. Early support given by Commissioner Moore, Commissioner Arts. Thank you very much. We're going to accept those donations. Anybody wishing to donate can call 926-3526. That's 926-3526. That is the coalition's phone number, and we will absolutely have folks at that address on an evening basis from here till the holiday season is over to receive donations and to work on distribution of donated goods. We're also working in conjunction with Burger King, which is going to donate. They're doing a toy drive, and they're donating to the coalition's efforts. And if I may take the opportunity for my second announcement, our January meeting of the Coalition for Youth, it will be a larger than normal meeting. We're planning to have that in the evening to bring to the public's awareness the most recent Florida Substance Abuse Survey results of our middle school children here in the county, and have a large crowd and open up the meeting for parents to join us as well. Thank you.
Chief Ward, do you want to come on up and do the Station 2 and Station 9?
Commissioners and citizens, we've been making some changes with the fire department lately, and I have two different stations represented tonight here that we want to take a few minutes to introduce them to you. One of the stations, which is Station 2, had a very low membership before with only 2 members out there. We made some changes, and now we have 17 members out there, 5 more by the end of this week for a total of 22. Before, we had only 2 firefighters out there and 2 first responders. We now have 5 firefighters, 5 more that are getting ready to take their test, 10 first responders, and 3 more that are in class right now. The members that I have here from Station 2 are, if you want to stand up if you want to, the chief is Delana Johnson, and coincidentally she's our first volunteer female chief in the county. I have Sabrina Herndon, Patsy Harrell, Charles Harrell, and Chuck Harrell. They're all new members from Station 2. And in Station 9, I have a new chief there, which is John Lesko. He's taking over out there at Station 9.
Very good. Thank y'all. We appreciate your service. it's a historical moment in that we have our first female fire chief in the county. So congratulations to you, and we're looking for great things. I just want to report to the board that the committee that we had voted to form is now been sort of done away with, if you will, because we feel like we've made progress. They've asked that they be able to work their issues now amongst themselves, which I think they're doing a good job of. So they'll call on me to meet with them as occasion requires to solve any issues. So I think we've made significant progress in that area. So thank you very much, Chief Ward, for your work there. Alan, you had something?
Yeah, I want to touch, I was asked earlier today by Allison Dodson, who represents United Way for Wakulla County, to again mention that United Way season is afoot. If you have the opportunity to donate to United Way at your business, please do. If you work in Tallahassee, please direct those funds back to Wakulla County. We need that money here to help serve our local community. If you have a local business and you are interested in participating with United Way, please let me know. I'll be glad to help connect you to Allison Dodson. She also wanted me to mention, more importantly, that tonight there will be 2 locations, which she did not get back to me on yet, in Wakulla County for the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, which helps people do their income tax. And you'll hear about it again at one of our upcoming meetings. But from January 22nd to April 15th, there will be 2 locations in Wakulla County where you can have your income tax done by a CPA for free through the United Way's Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. So stay tuned for more information to come on that. But if you're interested and you want to know more right now, you can call 211. That's your local telephone counseling and referral service. So just dial 211 on your phone, and they'll give you more information today. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Lynn, you had something?
He already spoke.
Okay, so we're done. Nobody else? Any items on this? Okay.
Unless, did you want to talk about the sort of the amnesty for criminal charges? There was one other thing.
You reminded me. That's another item I needed. Let me change hats. Bruce Ashley with the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office. I don't know if anybody's seen the press related to this event that's going to begin Wednesday, but the U.S. Marshal Service, Wakulla Sheriff's Office, Leon Sheriff's Office, and the Gadsden County Sheriff's Office is going to be doing a fugitive safe surrender program. Anybody in the counties, which totals about 10,000 in Gadsden and Wakulla, that has a misdemeanor warrant in effect can go to the Bethel AME Church in Leon County on Orange Avenue and have that basically commuted to a resolvable situation. It will be dealt with and adjudicated at that time. It's an effort to try and have people encouraged to come get their thing taken care of. They will all receive most likely favorable consideration from the court. Court is going to be established at the Bethel AME Church for those 4 days between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The Wakulla Sheriff's Office is also establishing a transfer location at the River of Life Church through Pastor Jones. Pastor Lewis Pollard has also been a supporter of this event. There are flyers around the county at all the convenience stores, at many of the faith-based religious centers where people can get information. It's on TV. It's in the Democrat almost daily and through the rest of the week. But folks who have a low-level crime that wants to get that taken care of and receive favorable consideration can come to the Bethel AME Church, and that's what will happen. It will be a one-stop shop. The highway safety folks are involved. The entire court process is being established at the church. I was there today. I'll be there tomorrow. The state attorney, public defender are there to assist. Counselors are there to assist. There are people to meet with family members there and help them through whatever their issue is. So it's a good opportunity. It's going to be a positive outcome for something that somebody might have had on their mind or be worried about for some time. So I encourage as much participation as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda.
There's a presentation.
I'm sorry, you're right. Thank you very much, Mr. Brock. Area 8, and I met this lady, and I don't know why I did that. I'm sorry. You come on. It's the Area Agency on Aging for North Florida. Ms. Pybus.
Yes, sir, and thank you so much. This is going to follow suit with, I think, much of what has already been spoken. The Area Agency on Aging is a nonprofit organization that receives funding through the Department of Elder Affairs via a contract. We take these funds and we divide the funds through 14 counties in the Panhandle of Florida. And you all are going to be glad to know I'm giving you my abbreviated version tonight. Part of what we have is called the Aging Resource Center. In the Aging Resource Center is a telephone number that is called the Elder Helpline number. The number is 1-800-963-5337. Our target population is seniors that are in need. And especially during these seasons, but this is throughout the entire year, if you know of seniors in Wakulla County that are in trouble, that need help, this is the number that they can begin with. 1-800-96-ELDER, E-L-D-E-R. And I've brought brochures both on the area agency and on the Elder Helpline number and left them with Jessica and asked her to please share them with you. But if you know of any seniors that are in need, we're here. We're in Tallahassee, and we would appreciate those referrals so that we can try to help.
What age do you consider elderly? How old are you?
60 and above would be considered an elder. However, there are numerous programs where you can be younger than that. We have one that starts at 3, and like I say, you get my abbreviated version tonight. I'd love to come back and tell you about all of our programs. They're wonderful, and they're there for our seniors.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. We're good now. Citizens, we'll do citizens to be heard here in about 6 minutes, so we can go ahead and dispose of the consent agenda, I think. I need a motion. We've pulled number 9, so I need a motion to approve the rest.
Move to approve the rest.
Okay, so moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Merrick. Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there's an error in the minutes from November 15th. I can correct that with Evelyn later, but so...
Now we need to fix it. You need to tell us what the fix needs to be so we
Sorry,
can...
I meant to talk to her before the meeting,
Let's
and
do
I
this.
forgot.
Let's pull number 2 and 9, and then we'll fix those separately. So the motion is to pass the remaining items, and a second by Mr. Merritt. Hearing no more discussion, all for the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Now we'll take a look at number 2, Ms. Arts.
I'm sorry, I didn't bring this up before. There was one of the vote count under general business, item 6. The motion carried 4-1. I was the only one who opposed it.
General business, item 6. Which item again?
General business number 6. It's on page 4 of the minutes.
Okay. So it should read...
And it passed 4-1 with me opposed.
So Mr. Kessler did vote in favor of it?
Yes.
Okay. Make those changes, those noted, okay? And the motion to do so, I hear a second. Second by Mr. Merritt. Any more discussion? All for the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And then we had number 9 pulled.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, the reason I pulled this was just to provide some clarification. The original request was to award the invitation of bid number 2011-01 to Purple Mountain Nursery for the Forest Health Improvement Initiative, approve the reduced number of sites and trees, and authorize the chairman to execute the contract. We didn't get the final information for the contract until late Friday, so the contract isn't prepared. But I do think that we know the terms, they're outlined in the bid, and so I'm asking you all to approve this and delegate the authority to the chairman to sign the contract once it's prepared, which should be, it'll be this week, but...
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Arch to approve and authorize me to sign, seconded by Mr. Brock. Any discussion? The citizens to be heard? All for the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We're a few minutes before 6:30, but I think we can go ahead and take citizens to be heard and be safe. Any that come in after that, we'll pick up on the end. First is Mark Mitchell.
I think he left.
Okay. Howard Kessler.
Honorable Chairman, Board of County Commissioners, Howard Kessler, Panacea, Florida. At the last meeting where I served as Wakulla County Commissioner, I wish the new Board of Commission success in the coming years. And I want to personally relay that hope and ask that all citizens give this new board the opportunity to establish itself, to give this new board a chance to take on the challenges that face our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kessler. I appreciate that. Ben Boynton.
Ben Boynton, Tallahassee. A couple of months ago, I brought 2 subdivisions in front of the commission for the acceptance of the roads that were constructed, and at that time, a motion was made to reconsider when the county would accept the roads, and I just talked to Heather, and she said that the percentage of completion, or the completion of lots sold in subdivisions, needs to be 90% before the county would take over the roads and the stormwater. What I'm saying to you is that I think that needs to be reconsidered, and the reason for that is the standard has been with the county for 2 years after the final plat has been recorded, that the developer is basically standing good for the construction of that road, and the reason for that is because if you have any soft spots, it's going to show up with construction trucks coming. If you have any major storms coming in, the problems are going to show up. And when a developer goes in before the county takes the roads over, he does remedial stuff, fixing anything that's broken asphalt on the side of the shoulder, any grassing in the swells, and I think that maybe one of the things that you may want to consider is where the concern was that if lots were being built on after the 2-year period and damage was done to the road, who is responsible for that? The builder is responsible, not the developer. So what I'm saying is, when the building inspection department goes and does a final inspection on the house, it'd be very easy for him to also make a determination if there's any damage to the roadside, and let the builder who did the damage do the correction for the county. And I'm just throwing that out as a possibility for y'all to reconsider. Thanks.
Okay. Larry Roberts. Thank you, sir. There's no more citizens to be heard. We'll move on to the next item of business, which is planning and zoning. Item number 14.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Courtney. Quasi-judicial, we got to do some stuff here first.
Yeah, sorry. Let's see, this is a quasi-judicial. We have a couple new board members, so I just want to let you know that in accordance with section 24.01 of the county code, when we have a quasi-judicial hearing, such as both of these matters, rezonings are quasi-judicial, each commissioner needs to disclose any contact that they may have received from interested parties, their representatives, any lobbyists, or any other third parties concerning the application. In addition, if you've done any personal investigation or you have personal knowledge that you're going to be relying upon in making your decision today, you need to disclose that. Also, in the future, I don't think, I've spoke with you individually, I know you didn't receive any written correspondence, but in the future on these matters, if there's any written correspondence, you also need to print that out and bring it so that we can make that a part of the record. So I'm going to go down the line. I'll start with Commissioner Hart since you're familiar with doing this.
Okay, thank you. I attended the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing of this item. I've had some verbal conversations with some of the nearby residents and have sent emails but not received emails from some of them. I've spoken briefly with the developer and I've spoken with county staff and I've been to the site. I think that's everything.
Commissioner Moore?
I've talked with the Mr. Brown and Mr. Boynton, but I have no financial interest.
Nothing's changed since the last hearing, so I've had no more contact.
No contact.
I spoke with Mr. Wade Brown briefly today.
Okay. And now this is a quasi-judicial, so if there's anyone here who's going to provide any testimony or speak to this matter, please stand up so I can swear you in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Now, turn it over to Summer. If you could just verify that the notices have been provided, briefly summarize your qualifications, and then go through the application.
Okay. Yes, the notice was sent to the Wakulla News. It was advertised in the Wakulla News on September 23rd and the September 30th edition. Notices were mailed out by certified mail to all property owners within 500 feet of the property, as well as signage was posted on the property indicating the rezoning request and the dates of the hearing. I have worked for the planning department for the last 5 years and have received several certifications in environmental courses as well as planning related items. This is an application for change of zoning R1005. The property owner is Ann Boynton Investments, LLC, and the agent is Ben Boynton and Edwin Brown and Associates. This change of zoning is for a 51.23 acre parcel located on the west side of Old Bethel Road, across from Winsong Subdivision. On October 11th, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval, and on November 1st, the Board of County Commissioners held the first of 2 public hearings, and no action was taken at that time. The land use for the property is Rural 2, and the current zoning is agriculture. The FEMA flood zone for the property is Zone C. Private wells and performance-based septic systems will be utilized on the subject property. No environmentally sensitive features are known to exist, and Old Bethel Road was recently paved by Wakulla County. Staff is recommending option 1, which is approval for change of zoning R1005.
Move to conduct the final public hearing and adopt the proposed ordinance amending the official zoning map, amending the official zoning from agriculture zoning district to rural residential zoning district 5, based upon the recommendation of staff and the recommendation of the Planning Commission and the findings of fact and conclusions of law made by the board and any evidence submitted at the hearing hereon.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Brock for option 1. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Arts. Citizens be heard. Ben Boynton.
This is a 55-acre tract that is going to be broken into 5-acre tracts, one of which is a 10-acre parcel. There's paved roads that were constructed by the county to the site. In this particular phase of we're asking for the zoning on the entire phase to be to R5. You will see in front of you at the next board on at the early January board meeting a preliminary plat on the development of this piece. That's going to be 4 tracks that's going to border Old Bethel Road, and the rest of the property will be also in 5-acre tracts, but will be done at a future date after the construction of a paved road that goes back to the back of that property. So I'm available if you have any specific questions.
Thank you. Wade?
Just available for any questions. We'd like to point out that preliminary plat is only going to go to the planning commission. It will stop there.
Okay. All right, commissioners, any comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, all for the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 15.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the application for change of zoning R10-06. These are from the same applicant, so unless one of you tells me differently, I'm going to assume your ex parte communications are the same as for the previous.
Okay.
And is there anyone who has not already been sworn in who's going to provide testimony on this item? If so, please stand up. Okay, remind you you're still sworn. Summer?
This is an application for change of zoning R10-06. Ben Boynton, the 1998 family FLP, is the owner. Ben Boynton and Edwin Brown and Associates are acting as agent. This is a request to change zoning from agriculture to RR5 on a 63.969 acre portion of a larger 161.56 acre parcel, which is located on the north side of Zion Hill Road, approximately 585 feet west of Crawfordville Highway. On October 11th, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval. On November 1st, the Board of County Commissioners held its first of 2 public hearings, and no action was taken at that time. The future land use for this property is Rural 3, and it's also subject to a special area plan which was adopted and established by the Comprehensive Plan Text Amendment that was adopted by the Board in 2004. The property is in the FEMA flood zone area C. Central water is available on serviced by Talquin on the south side of Zion Hill Road, and sanitary sewer will be provided by Wakulla County. The subject property currently contains 2 CARTS features, both which will be provided, buffers will be provided for. Signage was posted on the property in 2 separate locations indicating the rezoning request, and public notice was provided in the Wakulla News on September 23rd and September 30th. Staff is recommending option 1, which is approval of this change of zoning request.
Move to conduct the final public hearing and adopt the proposed ordinance amending the official zoning map, amending the official zoning from agriculture zoning district to RR5, rural residential zoning district, based upon the recommendation of staff, the recommendation of the Planning Commission, and the findings of fact and the conclusions of law made by the board and any evidence submitted at the hearing hereon.
A motion by Mr. Brock for option 1. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Merritt. Citizen to be heard of Ben Boynton.
Thank you. This piece of property was purchased by me back in 2004 from St. Joe. It was initially a 430-acre tract. We went through DCA and got the land use created 1 unit per 1 acre, which we then turned around and designated for this tract, the entire tract, and we did it with the SAP written into the county code, to the county as a county ordinance, and it stipulated certain things that had to be done for the development of this piece of property. So the main thing was that 45% of the area had to stay as natural state area because of the proximity to the springs. The Flower subdivision was developed and platted, and the first phase is under construction. The second 2 phases have been approved. The preliminary plat's been approved. The set-asides have been so designated on the plats. We basically did the same concept on this. We kept 45% of natural state area. What we are going to do on the initial plat that we're doing today, that we're asking you to consider once again in early January as a preliminary plat approval will be to take, instead of 1 acre tracts, doing 5 acre tracts. And not doing a PUD on this, I'm giving up density. I cannot transfer density out of this property into a future PUD. So the only way I would be able to do that is to do a PUD on the entire tract. And the reason I've decided not to do that is because we don't know the market is, the conditions of the market are so poor that the ultimate end of this property is still unknown. And the 5 acre tracts that we're now currently anticipating doing, which would be 4 tracts facing Zion Hill Church Road, so there will be paved access to those lots. And we will be hooking a low-pressure sewer system up to the existing force main that was run down 319, and we will be doing a hookup of potable water across Zion Hill to an existing 2-inch line that Talquin has got put in place. We are in compliance with SAP 1, and the cost features have all been scrutinized by Dan Garlick, and the report has been issued to the planning department, so all that is in file. We are very concerned that we follow the guideposts that were done by SAP1. The reasons that we don't want to do a PUD, or that I'm not, the real reason for not doing the PUD, as I want to go back up and just say one more time, is that this property does have a land use of 1 unit per 1 acre. The disposition of the property could be in 2 acre tracts, 1 acre tracts, or 5 acre tracts. We're going to let market determine that. And the flowers, how fast the flowers subdivides, sells out, is going to be somewhat of a earmark, or a determinant as to how we do this piece as well. So, if you have any questions.
Any questions for Wade Brown?
No questions.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion by the board? All for the motion? Aye. Opposed?
I for approval,
okay.
Yes, and I appreciate the explanation provided.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, then we'll move on to general business. Item number 16.
Thank you, Commissioners. First item under general business is the board request consideration and authorization to repair Station 8, the Crawfordville Fire Department, and authorize staff to seek necessary funding to complete the proposed renovation. Basically, Commissioners, it's no secret. We'll call it Crawfordville Fire Station is in desperate need of repair. The building's been in existence since 1976. It's got some roof issues, some structural issues, particularly where we house our paid staff and where that fire apparatus is held. Staff has put together some options for the board to consider at different cost levels. Option 1 is a $60,000 basically roof repair to firm up the roof to ensure that our fire personnel and our apparatus are out of the elements, which they're currently, right now, they're all over at the training grounds in temporary situation until this repair can be fixed. The second option, and staff recommended, is a cost of $200,000 to replace the roof and the main structure that houses the trucks and the paid staff. And the third option for board consideration is just a total redo of the whole building at a $450,000 cost. Staff is recommending that we seek loan funding to fund the cost of this repair, whichever option the board chooses. Currently, as you know, the MSBU was reduced during last year's budget process. We currently have $83,000 in the reserve, not nearly enough to make all the repairs that would need to be done to the fire station, but we do have capacity to do a short-term loan, hopefully get competitive interest rates, since we'll have a secure funding source to back the loan. So those are the options considerations for the board. Staff and fire personnel on hand if you have any questions.
Okay.
Move to authorize staff to repair Station 8, Department of Volunteer Fire Department, according to repair option 2 above, and authorize staff to locate and dedicate the necessary funding to complete the proposed renovation.
Second.
Motion for option 2 and seconded by Ms. Arts. Okay. Any of y'all need to say anything, or you don't want to talk us out of it, I know. Don't talk unless you have to. Jessica, any citizens to be heard? None? Board,
I just want to be sure that this, we talked about this is going to be borrowed money, but it's going to be repaid with MSBU funds, is that correct? Not ad valorem revenues. Okay, I talked to Scott about this, and I looked at the building just for some background on it. It's a 2 or 3 different buildings. It's got some different roof pitches that are tied together. The roof decking isn't even nailed to the trusses. It's actually nailed to fern strips. It looks to me like it was an old pole barn that they put plywood over it and, did an admirable job back in the day, but I think it's reached the end of its useful life. And we talking with the engineer Cliff, and this seems like the most cost-effective long-term option. Obviously, it's not the cheapest option, but they made a very good point to me. I didn't realize they had to special order that ladder truck to fit in that building. So if we didn't expand the building, the next fire truck we get has to be special ordered, thus making it more expensive. And I don't want to belate this, but okay. Mr. Moore?
I share the same thing as Mr. Merritt. I can agree with option 2. The electrical in that building is a fire. It's good we have a fire station there, because it will shortly be an issue at that station. My only statement and request also is this: that no money of this is coming out of the general operations of the county. It won't cause us to have to raise taxes to support this.
No, sir. This loan, or if the board chooses next year to pay off the loan, it'll all be coming out of the MSBU.
It's my understanding we have maybe $500,000 plus or minus somewhere that can come back and pay this loan off.
There is some cash forward that wasn't recognized this year. I won't put a number on it, just without
that's okay.
Solid numbers, but yes, there's some funding that could potentially pay off the loan next year.
And we can't use that money now instead of doing the loan?
No,
So we can use that money next year to pay off the loan?
If the board chooses, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I just had a question about option 2 does not include making any replacing the concrete building, correct? Right, but under the analysis it says that since the roof system is not on load-bearing walls, the structure has begun to shift, causing cracks in exterior concrete block walls. So I just wanted to make sure that that can be fixed without having...
I didn't see that when I was out there. Maybe I missed something, but...
Yeah, it's the station has been added to twice. The bays have been made longer, and it's those joints that have a slight separation.
Right, the joints are at the front wall, and in the option 2, the front wall is going to come off and be moved out.
I understand what you're talking about.
Okay, so the integrity of the existing building is okay to go with option 2. Okay.
One thing I want to clarify, Mr. Moore brought up, and I think that's a good point, and I asked the same question. I want to make sure the public understands, because I saw some quizzical looks on people's faces, that there's money that hasn't been allocated in this year's budget. I asked if we do a budget amendment, but we can't because we didn't put it in the budget. So what we've got to do is borrow the money for a short term, and if we decide as a board, I don't want to see us spend all of our cash up and then not have some cash to spend later if we have the need arises. But at the same time, I don't want us to be in long-term debt. So I'm hoping that economics will be as such in the coming new fiscal year that we can just move that money forward and pay the debt off like you're suggesting, Mr. Moore, and I think we'll be fine. So there's no way to do that now. So that's why we're doing it the way we're doing it. I want to make sure the public understands that. And we're going to. So I guess the motion then is you guys will come back with an interest rate that we'll have to approve and move forward after that.
Yes, that will
research loan options, and we'll bring recommendations back to the board for your approval.
Can we have that first meeting in January? I know the holiday season's in there, but if we can do that, the quicker we get these folks out of that temporary facility they're in, the better.
I don't see why we couldn't. I'll get with the clerk's office and see if we can reach out to our contacts at the local banks and see what we can come back with.
And I wanted one more point. When we do get to this, I want to be sure when we bid this out to give our local contractors as much chance as possible to do some of the work. I know that's already built in our process now, so we're not talking about it. I just want to throw that out. Okay. All right, any more discussion? All for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, Commissioners, the next item on the agenda is the board consideration and approval to waive the county's purchasing policy for the purchase of an ambulance and approval to purchase a 4x4 utility rescue vehicle with budgeted capital equipment 1 cent sales tax funds. Commissioners, this item is requesting that the board waive their normal purchasing policy for a purchase of this size. Public safety staff was able to locate a new ambulance as part of the program capital improvement project. It's a demo model. It's a 2008, but it's considerably lower cost than going after a brand new ambulance. We've had them research what a new vehicle of the same stock would cost, and it's quite higher. So we've done the due diligence in trying to get comparable quotes, but it's all boiling down to being a single source purchase, and we're asking for your approval to waive our purchasing policy in order to save the county some costs. In addition, since we had originally programmed $135,000 for this new ambulance, Public Safety is asking to use the balance of what's left after the ambulance to buy a new utility vehicle, a 4x4 truck that is able to help citizens in emergency situations, and Public Safety staff is here to answer any questions or provide more insight if needed.
I move to approve waiving the county's purchasing policy and purchase the demonstration ambulance from Excellence as a single source purchase, also to improve a purchase of a 4x4 utility rescue vehicle through the state of Florida's DMS vehicle contract, and to authorize the chairman to execute all necessary documents related to these purchases.
Second. We have a motion by Ms. Arts for option 1 and seconded by Mr. Brock. Any citizens to be heard? Fran, you don't want to talk us out of it.
I'm just here to say, oh, please.
Okay, good answer. Any discussion? Yes, sir?
Basically, this is the same thing as we talked about before. It's important that the citizens realize this is not money of theirs that we're spending. This is money that was allocated for this, and it's not coming out of the general fund, so it's not going to increase your taxes. This is probably the 1%. This comes off of the 1% sales tax. So you've already paid for this. This is not going to increase your taxes, and it's not going to increase the cost of government.
Okay. Any more discussion?
I'm just really glad that the new ambulances have better maintenance records and better fuel efficiency.
Yes, ma'am.
That's
we get
terrific news.
Twice the mileage out of the same gallon.
Okay, all for the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Item up, Commissioners, is request board approval to direct staff in the county attorney's office to draft a comprehensive countywide golf cart community ordinance to include establishing 2 golf cart communities in the Panacea area. Basically, this item is asking the board to allow the county attorney to work with Panacea folks as Waterfronts Committee, Florida Partnership, and the Community Traffic Safety Team in crafting an ordinance to allow for 2 golf cart communities in the Panacea area. Public Safety Director Mr. McDermott's been working on this item, so I'll let him.
Before you do, let's get a motion on the floor.
Move to direct staff in the county attorney's office to draft a comprehensive countywide golf cart community ordinance to include establishing 2 golf cart communities in the Panacea area, and authorize the county attorney to exceed the 10-hour cap for legal services.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Brock for option 1 and second by Mr. Arts. You just here for...
Yes, sir, and I brought a map just in case.
Okay,
No questions from me.
Okay, any questions? Charles Hickman, citizen to be heard.
Yes, Charles Hickman, 528 Hickorywood Drive. I just have 2 questions. I tried to pick up on it on the internet as to exactly where these areas were located. And one question is any part of the Panacea areas in question, or is any part of it controlled by the St. Mark's Wildlife Refuge? And if so, have the feds been consulted on it?
The answer is no, it's not part of any wildlife refuge area.
Okay. They control so much of it down there, that's why I asked.
You said there was a second question. Is that both parts?
That was both parts.
So the answer is, I'm told, is no.
Okay.
Maybe we could see Scott's maps then, or so you could tell us where these areas are, just to follow up on that.
It's, for the most part, it's all of Panacea except for Highway 98. And we'll be requesting and working with them and the CTST to request a crossing. But it's all, as far as I'm aware, now mind you, in the item it says to get with all the stakeholders and develop this ordinance together. So if we, as we go through, we discover that there are more players in the game, we will make sure to invite them. But as far as the information I have today, I'll show you the map though. Let's see the map. So it shows everything but Highway 98. Well, and the reason not Highway 98's not depicted is because we can't drive on Highway 98 with a golf cart. We're working that issue out with DOT now.
Is this the same map, Scott, that's in our agenda book?
Give or take, yes, sir. I made that one.
I'm fine with it.
This one actually has the highlighted roads. Show it to Miss Arts here. I've seen it. Also includes Bottoms Road and both sides of 98 for Panacea. And so far, and we have to, as a committee and the board, write a letter requesting, because only the county can designate county roads. We can't designate the state's road. So as a CTST, we will be requesting that the board write a letter to DOT requesting them to make a crossing.
Multiple crossings? One crossing.
Someone asked for one, but I think one is going to be the answer, because they're not real crazy about having any crossings. But the big goal really is to get the folks at the apartment complex on Otter Lake Road and these folks across the way to the grocery store and that stuff there. Okay.
Thank you.
And I think there's, if memory serves me right, you can basically get anywhere in Panacea to anywhere else on either side of 98 by back roads.
Yes.
There's a bunch of them.
Okay, any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 5-0.
The next item is board request board ratification of the discussion during the October 17, 2010 Roads Clean Action Plan Committee workshop, and direct staff to proceed with action plans for the 17 recommendations. Commissioners, as you remember, on October 7th, the RCAP committee came to the board with all their recommendations for clean roads. There were 17 listed. I won't go through each one. Staff is basically asking for direction on which recommendations the board finds favorable or would like staff to look into, if any or all, and just give us direction on how to proceed.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I don't know what procedure. Do we need to wait for a motion if I need to talk about it?
Yes, sir. We need a motion on the floor, and then we can discuss it.
I'll make a motion to approve for discussion.
Motion to move for discussion. Second? Second by Mr. Moore.
Oh, okay.
All of them? Well, I know what Robert's rules say. I'll make a motion to divide the question after somebody makes a motion to approve it, but I thought we could do a little bit more informal and just kind of go over them a little bit.
We can discuss it and then break them out. Yes, we can do that. We're okay. We're on good ground. Okay. Any citizens to be heard? Are you here just for to answer questions, or you?
Just to answer questions, yes. I don't have a presentation for you tonight.
Okay. All right, so what we needed...
What is her name?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Pamela Joy, and I'm representing the Roads Clean Action Plan Committee, or RCAP.
Now, we need to hammer out, if we want want to approve all of these recommendations or some of the recommendations, and that's what I'll entertain now. What I'd like to see us do is just start with number 1 and let's hammer it out down the list as efficiently as we can.
Quickly, yes.
And number 1, we'll talk about that one forward if you would like to approve or not approve.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
At our last meeting, I had an agenda related to this recommendation, that this be discussed at the January 6th workshop with what's already scheduled. So to some extent, I feel like we've at least partially addressed it and moved it forward.
Continue number 1 to the workshop?
I'd like to see us dispose of it tonight, and I think it can pass. I'm in support of it. I'd like to just approve this first one.
But you're going to support having an enforcement officer stationed at the solid waste management facility? Well, that's part of the recommendation.
Okay, so you want to just table it and go to the workshop and talk about it?
I think that would be a good time to look at the options and...
Excuse me, Commissioner, one thing we're asking also is if you want to give staff direction to bring back a cost analysis on some of these items. Some of them don't need cost analysis. I mean, you can address them as they are, but some items could be directed to staff to bring you back cost analysis of what might be required.
Yes, sir. I don't want to beat this to death, but the recommendation itself does not say put someone there. It basically says follow the law, cover your loads. Then in the following paragraph, it said, it is the thought of the recap committee that an officer should be stationed. It's not part of the recommendation. I think they're simply saying, which I appreciate their efforts, that people need to follow the law. Then if they cite Florida statutes, you're not supposed to drive down a load with trash blowing out of your vehicle.
Well, the recommendation says recommend regulating to require, and that's already in place. So I don't know that we're following the wording exactly.
I don't know if this is anything really new, to be honest with you. I mean, I know when I was running the landfill, you run into this stuff all the time about uncovered loads.
Right. I mean, it is a law already, but it's not being enforced, and we're trying to find a possible solution to help it be enforced, and this was one idea of the committee that might help.
Well, I think between my item having it discussed at January 6th plus Commissioner Brock's upcoming item, I think we've got this one moving along. I don't know that we need to do anything more, but I'll stop talking.
It's the pleasure of the board. If the board wants to dispose of it here tonight, we'll dispose of it. If not, we'll table it. I just need to hear a motion to do such.
I would make a recommendation that we accept the first paragraph as it is.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the recommendation in the first paragraph as is. Second.
Are we going to vote on each line item, like we did divide the question, or do you want to just go through it and revise it and vote on the whole thing?
We already accepted these recommendations. If I understand correctly, what we're being asked now is to direct staff to do a cost analysis and to develop an action plan on each of these 17 items or selected ones of them.
There you go.
Yes,
and I think that's the key, Ms. Arts, is that, I mean, I don't want to waste their time on 17 items.
No, I don't either. If y'all have already approved it, I didn't know that. I didn't know y'all had already accepted all these.
We have. But tonight, I want us to dispose of them as either telling staff to do each one individually. That's what I'd like to do, is go through them, and they know what to expend time on. Otherwise, they're going to expend all this time, and they're going to come back to another meeting and say, no, we don't want but 1, 5, 7, and 8. I just want us to, I'd like to proceed through it quickly to be able to tell staff what to work on.
I agree.
Okay, so we have a motion then to approve this first one for the staff to do the analysis and bring us back. That's what we're talking about doing. Is that not what you want to do?
That's not what I want to
do. It doesn't say anything about staff. It just says to recommend regulating the commercial trash hauler.
What we did is we put you've already accepted the recommendations. The chairman is absolutely correct. This is to just recap the recommendations and for you to pick and choose to either do all of them, tell staff to do a cost analysis and start implementing all of them, or ones that you deem are necessary to move forward with. So,
What I just
But
said.
we cannot modify them, is that what I'm understanding? It's either yes or no.
I guess what we're
I don't see why you couldn't modify them if you wanted to.
I think they could be modified,
Okay.
you know.
Okay, so for the first recommendation, I'm hearing just the first paragraph is what we want you to research and find the cost analysis on and come back and tell us. Okay. All right, so let's move on to number 2 now.
It's fine with that one.
Do we need to vote on that individually as we go, or do we vote on all of them at the end?
I think individually.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to accept that first paragraph and task y'all to do what you need to do. Second, all for the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I need to hear y'all vote.
Can I, may I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we're asking staff to research and come up with a cost estimate for issuing citations and fines and giving mandatory service. Is that what we're asking? I just want to know what we're directing staff to do.
That's what I understand is that I thought
I'm with Ms. Arts on that one. I mean, it says, if you look at the options, it's proceed with action plans and cost analysis. I don't think there is a cost analysis for this. It's just the action plan portion of it.
okay.
It says to put inexpensive turfs at the landfill.
Then say no cost and what the action plan is. How simple is that?
Well, I think if we research this, and we'll come back with that, to implement this, it's going to cost so much to put tarps at the landfill. It's going whatever it's going to take to implement that recommendation, we'll come back to you.
We may need an additional part-time employee out there or something. I mean, all those things will be wrapped into that analysis. And I mean, I'm not saying that that's necessarily what's going to come back, but there may be a small cost.
Yes, sir.
I was not a privy to this development. If any of these things increase the cost, increase rules or regulations, cost the county money, I'm not going to vote for them. I know that we need a clean community and everything, but we need to cut expenses. We need to get the workload off staff so they can do other things maybe. But if any of these items cost money, increase rules and regulations, or an an added tax, I'm not going to vote for it.
Excuse me, Commissioner, may I say something? This committee was established by the board a year ago, and the committee worked for a year to come up with these ideas to submit to the board, and we prepared a final report which was presented in July, and then we had a workshop in October for discussion, and I and all the members of the committee that worked on this feel very strongly, and obviously we know that there's not extra money to be spent, but if you would at least consider the cost analysis in terms of what might be done, or even people that are already in existing positions, what might be just, some extra job duties. It's amazing how much litter that we found was out there, and even what's already being collected, but what's still out there. And it is important. It's important for tourism, and it's important for, the health of our community and just our citizens. And I won't get up on my soapbox again, but I just want to give you a little more background because there were many people that worked and gave their volunteer hours and spent a lot of time coming up with these recommendations. So if you would just consider a cost analysis and let us say what it's going to cost or what it's not going to cost. And some of them don't have additional costs, but I would appreciate your consideration.
And I don't think you were saying don't do that. We're going to move through the list and task the staff to do that. So that's what we're doing here with number 1.
Thank you.
So all for the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0 on recommendation 1. Recommendation 2.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Merritt, second by Mr. Brock.
To do the second?
I'm not going to be for it.
I think it would be easier, and I volunteered to do it, to just write a resolution, bring it to the board for approval, send it through the channels, rather than have staff work up an action plan and a cost analysis, because this isn't an account, this is a state level action.
The reason it's pretty vague. I mean, it just says support something, we can support something. But I've taken to heart.
Okay. Commissioner Arntt's volunteers to bring back a resolution. That seems like a better alternative.
Okay.
That's your motion to do that?
Yeah, I move to bring back a resolution to the board that will be forwarded then to the
Is this going to be on
state
all 17
entities.
of them?
No, I'm talking about number 2. We're on number 2.
Okay. Withdraw. I'll rescind my motion.
Yeah.
Bring it in, guys. I'm frustrated that we didn't have more discussion on this at a commissioner level with staff while we're here at this 11th hour trying to figure out, I mean, this isn't my item. I'm not sure whose item this came back at the request of the board at an earlier date, apparently. I'm frustrated that we're here having these discussions now where we could have done this anyway. So the motion that was made earlier was withdrawn, and we're now at the motion with Ms. Art saying that she'll draft a resolution and propose it at a later meeting. And do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Merritt. Now that motion's on the floor in a second, we'll vote on that motion. All for the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Recommendation number 3.
I'd make a motion to approve that one with the change that we change it from recommending the county commission to require all local business to replace disposable shopping bags to support or encourage. Great word. I think when we start requiring something,
Exactly.
that was my major change on this whole deal, was that one word.
Did you make a motion on that?
Yeah, we change the word require in the recommendation 3 to support.
I second that.
Encourage. It'll read, recommend that the county commission encourage all local businesses to replace disposable plastic and paper.
I second that.
Okay?
And we might be able to do that even with just a paragraph on our permits or something, just to encourage.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All for the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Quick question, real quick. I know we're going to move on, and what's going to come back is Pamela's committee is going to bring back an action plan of how we would encourage
Staff is.
staff.
Right, the committee is sunset. I mean, the committee is done, but I volunteer for anything that I can do with the support of my supervisor, of course.
Yeah, I'm concerned that the way we're going, we're going to be adding a lot of work to staff.
That's what we, as a board, tasked them to do. That's what we did before this agenda item came.
We just asked for a little leeway in the amount of time to come back with these action plans. And
one of the things that's awkward right now is that two new commissioners didn't hear your workshop. We actually discussed every single one of these items and indicated at that time which we thought were most important, which we thought were out of the board's purview. We had the attorney say one we couldn't do. So it's awkward now when we have new members who don't know that to be making motions and whatever. So
it's unfortunate that we couldn't get this done before this time, but it just worked out that way. But
Mr. Chairman, that was really the only issue I had. If I can, I'll make a motion that we go ahead and accept all the other recommendations for staff to look at, and let's get the ball rolling. At least we can all talk to Tim or whoever about any concerns we have about these. Okay? If that would suit the board.
excuse me, one more thing. There has been some discussion about that. I mean, staff is aware of the items that do need a cost analysis or that are already able to be put in place. So we have had some discussion already on that, and I don't think we'd have a problem with that.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept recommendations through 17 for staff to analyze and give a cost estimate. I really don't have a problem with the rest of them. If we do have a problem, of course, when they come back with their analysis, we can address it at that time, but I don't have any grief with at least having them look at these.
If I could mention this, to have staff and their time schedule and everything, maybe they could take one of these per meeting and not have to do them all at one time, just go down the list 1 through 17 and bring those back one at a time instead of you having to go out here and do all 17 of them at one time.
Well, Commissioner, I mean, The way I envision it, we can go back and look at each one of these, and we can present them back to you and say, not economically feasible, or we can implement that. These are the steps we would have to take in order to do that, or this is the price or the cost it would take to do that. I mean, that's kind of what I envisioned. Unless, I mean, that's a good idea too, Commissioner, but we could probably do it in a quicker turnaround time than one meeting, if that's acceptable to the board.
Some of them are very, very simple.
Right.
Yes, and I just on that same note, if we did it that way, it would be 17 months, and it's already been
No,
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Could I ask that we at least eliminate recommendation, the one that has to do with the charter of the committee that's now sunsetted? There's no point in going back and changing
Right,
what you would...
adding the wildlife provision,
Yes.
Jackie Turner? Yes, because the board, the board as it was at the workshop already addressed that and pretty much agreed that was acceptable, but
It's not timely anymore.
right, it's done, so we don't really need to, I think that's number 4.
I'll amend my motion to eliminate recommendation 5, which I think is what you're talking about.
Mine aren't numbered.
Yes, correct, thank
Right.
you.
Okay, let's start over. I'm really frustrated right now with the way we're doing this. I'm of the opinion that we're going to waste staff's time with them going through all this and getting all this stuff together when I don't agree with half of them. Why waste their time? And I think if we all read it and understood it, that you wouldn't be for them just on a purely cost analysis. I mean, I know it's going to cost something, and I'm with Mr. Moore that if it's going to cost anything, it's too much. So I'm saying to you that we need to continue through this process if we can just understand that I think some of these need to just go away and not waste staff's time doing all this.
I would also, Commissioner Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I would like to recommend that some of these be given to the Keep Wakulla County Beautiful Committee.
Second.
There's a few of these that I don't think beyond outside of that purview. I mean, in my notes, I think 13, 14, 17, 7, and 8. So 7, 8, 13, 14, 17, I read them in order, could easily be given over to Keep Wakulla County Beautiful. There are things like encourage a film festival, encourage a tip line. Things like this can be discussed and decided by the Keep Wakulla County Beautiful Committee, which is anxious and looking for volunteers if you're interested in volunteering. I was speaking with their executive director just last week, and she was begging me to recruit more people to try and take over some of these things.
What were those numbers?
I suggest 7, 8, 13, 14, 17. I think there's, we could probably...
What was that again?
7, 8, 13, 14, and 17 are the ones I would suggest, but I'd be amenable to sending even more.
Right, and that was part of the plan of the committee, was to work with the community on some of these.
Oh, that's good.
They weren't all to be done by county, of course.
Commissioners, if it would be helpful in time constraints, why don't we do some more due diligence on our part? We'll bring these back to you with recommendations on what we should do with them. Take all your considerations in mind, give you some cost estimates on what we think it'll cost to implement some of these, and then at that time you can make a decision if you want to go forward with that. Would that be an acceptable solution instead of trying to pick them out?
Yes, it sounds good to me.
I mean, it's a quagmire what we got in front of us right now.
Right, I'm trying to clear that up. I apologize. You're right. We should give you more information, and if you want, we can go back to the drawing board, rework these, give you some recommendations, and then bring them back to you.
Okay. So, Ms. Clerk, we're going to vacate all the stuff we just did. Okay?
Yeah.
And we'll go back and rework this and come back with some logical methodology to get through. This is ridiculous. This really is.
We'll give you more information and more recommendations.
Just let me clarify. So the motion that's on the floor, I believe you're going to rescind.
Yes.
Okay, the one that's already passed, are you all going to reconsider that at this time?
I'm willing to go forward with that resolution for the state level action. I don't think that needs to be rescinded and reconsidered myself.
I agree.
Is that number
Okay,
one?
so the ones you're reconsidering is the motion made,
We're trying to pass a state law. So I don't think we need that back in the list of what staff's going to do, I think.
Is that number one?
No, that's number 2.
She's just going to bring back a resolution for us to discuss at a future time.
Okay, let's bring it back, let's rescind what we've done, and then we can start over with number 2. Okay, let's get that cleaned up first, what we've already done. All right, so do I hear a motion to rescind the actions?
on 1 and 3.
On 1 and 3? So moved. So moved by Mr. Merrick to rescind the action taken on item 1 and 3. And a second by Mr. Brock. Okay, so that leaves number 3.
Number 2.
Number 2 to stand like it was to approve it, to move forward. Okay? To vote, now we need a motion to have task staff to come back with some more recommendations.
So moved.
Second.
We need to vote on...
We need to vote on the rescission.
All for the motion of the rescission? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Now the motion is to
have staff review and bring back more detailed solutions.
Okay, second by Mr. Moore. Any discussion?
Could, on agenda item number 4, can you look at Collier County? So, making a note I wanted to put up there.
Yes, Ms. Arch.
When staff is looking at these, besides looking at costs, if there's any information about effectiveness, I think it would be helpful, because some of these suggestions may have sounded like good ideas, but if they're not going to help the litter problem at all,
I think we have research on all of those that do. And as you know, Mr. Chairman, also, this was a citizen volunteer committee, and so we were really looking for what you just did in terms of board direction, because we couldn't do cost analyses or further action without board direction. So that's really what we needed. Thank you.
Anything, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My own feeling is that now I lost it. That one of the biggest problems is let me go back. At the last meeting, I brought several agenda items to address some of these. One of them is the fact that our pickup for litter partnership has changed. And so that's recommendation 16 says to recommend the continued partnership. We no longer have inmates picking up trash along our DOT roads. So I've already requested an update from staff at our last meeting about that issue.
And that is something that was being done already, and then we lost the inmate help. But I was going to go back to Cleve or whoever is doing that right now, because just this week I saw inmates picking up litter along the highway, and so I don't have up-to-date information on that yet, but I didn't know if there's been a change, but I did see inmates picking up litter, I think Friday or Saturday.
On the county road or the state road?
It was a county road, though.
Right, the contract's still in place on the county road, although we may lose it.
Right.
But it's no longer in place on the state road.
DOT.
Okay. Vote. Okay. The motion is to send it to staff for more analysis and come back with recommendations. We have a second. All for the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Commissioners, next item before we got the last item derailed us. Moving right along. This is an update on the Big Bend Scenic Byway Project, discussion of the 2011-12 National Scenic Byway Program grant application, request board approval for grant submission by the Tourist Development Council, and request approval for pledge of match. And I've got Pam Portwood here, our Tourist Development Council Director, to walk you through the item and have a PowerPoint for you.
Okay, really pleased to be here. Let's see our fifth commissioner over here.
We're pleased to be here in front of our new commission and talk to you about the Big Bend Scenic Byway. It's a really significant project in Wakulla County as well as Franklin and Leon, and we've made a lot of progress, and we're here to update you on that a little bit and then talk to you about what we have planned for the next 2 to 3 fiscal years, actually. And I promise this will be brief. I will go through this PowerPoint pretty quickly. A lot of the items and a lot of the update is in your agenda item, but I just wanted to also let our public see what a great project this is and how much we've accomplished over the last few years. So our presentation will provide you an update on the Scenic Byway project. We'll talk about an application that we're working on, talk to you about the possibility of Wakulla County being the grantee on that, and then about the required match cash that we'll be asking that you commit. The Big Bend Scenic Byway is a 220-mile corridor that goes through Leon, Wakulla, and Franklin counties. It connects all of those things that you see listed on that slide there. I mean, numerous. We've got national forests, we've got refuges, we have lots of state and local parks, all being connected by the Big Bend Scenic Byway. We have been through about an 8-year grassroots process to get designation as first a Florida State Scenic Highway, and then last year we were really honored to become one of America's Byways collection, which means we are now a nationally designated scenic byway. During that time, we've raised over $400,000 worth of matching support for grants and other things that we've done to get us to this point. Just briefly, some of the benefits of being especially a national scenic byway. Of course, it provides us access to grants and enhancement funding for the byway. It literally puts us on the map. In fact, we just got the final draft of the new map that has the big star where the Big Bend Scenic Byway is. And when you see that, when those come out, you'll note that we're the only scenic byway on the Gulf Coast. So not even just in Florida, but in this region, we really stand out. Statistics show that the national designation of a scenic byway also comes along with increased business and increased tax and business revenue. The best thing about this for us is that this focuses very much on heritage and nature-based tourism, which, as you know, is Wakulla County's focus on our tourism efforts. The byway provides education to visitors and citizens on the area's history. It tells the byway's story. It raises the profile of communities along the byway and improves community recognition and establishes kind of a regional identity for the area. It also, as we showed on the full slide before, it helps to link numerous cultural, historic, and natural resources along the byway and contributes to a collaborative marketing program. The Scenic Byway is administered by the Corridor Management Entity, which we call CME for short. That's a 31-member management entity that has representatives from all of the state, federal, local government, educational institutions, civic groups, all sorts of businesses and groups like that along the byway. We have quarterly meetings. We are in charge of actually guiding and implementing the Corridor Management Plan, which is the document that says what it is that we're going to do with the byway, what the story is to be told, and how we'll relate to things like the interpretation, sustainable economic development throughout the region, and so forth.
we have made great strides already in implementing the corridor management plan. You've been handed some collateral materials that we've recently developed, the tear-off map for the scenic byway as well as RAC cards. Those are, the RAC cards are being distributed through the visitor centers along the Visit Florida State Visitor Centers, and then the tear-off maps are all along the byway at all kinds of businesses and visitor centers to get people around once they get here. One of the main accomplishments recently has been the development of the Big Bend Scenic Byway Interpretive and Way Showing Plan. That document actually, oops, I'm sorry, I went too far, provides branding elements for the corridor. It provides some conceptual design for all of the kiosks and the portals and the signage that goes along the byway. It put together a logo for the Big Bend Scenic Byway, and also talks some about some other marketing efforts that we would work on throughout the byway. Right now, we're actually working on the revision and reprinting of the Big Bend Scenic Byway Guide. I think some of you probably already have one of those. I wanted to bring more, but we're actually near the end of our inventory, so I didn't have any to bring you tonight. But that has been a really important piece of marketing for the Big Bend Scenic Byway, and we currently have grant funds to revise that. We'll be also working on an ambassador program for the byway, similar to the Wakulla County Ambassador Program, where we're teaching frontline staff how to treat our visitors as well as point them in the direction of all of these attractions that we have along the byway. We have a grant through Visit Florida that will be producing some video podcasts for our byway to get us a little up to date in this new media world. And we also have some new directional signage that I think Wakulla County just got their signs. Our Public Works Department just got the signs for our county and should be going up soon. But they actually have arrows that tell you which way the byway goes so that when visitors come they don't get lost. So that really brings us to the biggest reason for us to be here, and that is our work for the upcoming fiscal years, 2012-13 and probably into 2013-14. We are currently working on an application through the National Scenic Byways Grant Program to implement that entire way showing and interpretive plan that we just finished through our previous National Scenic Byway grant. Diane Delaney and I, who are, Diane is one of the consultants for the byway, have been meeting with all of the agencies and the other local governments along the byway to determine if, first of all, we could come up with the match that we needed for the grant, and then see if it was even a feasible project for the byway. This just talks to you a little bit about the interpretive plan, and it breaks the byway up into themes and storylines, and then talks to you about the exhibits and the kiosks that are part of it. But I'm just going to kind of click through that and get to our request. The total cost, estimated cost, of the implementation of the way showing and interpretive plan is $655,000, and in fact it probably will be a little more than that now, because as of our last CME meeting, the Apalachicola National Forest is also interested in partnering and getting some of their signs and kiosks done along the byway that goes through the forest there. So it actually will probably be a little bit bigger grant than that. Federal funds through the National Scenic Byway Grant provide 80% of the funding for a project like this, which is really unusual. Most grant funds require at least a 1-to-1 match. So this is not only a large amount of money that we're able to apply for, but it's also with a minimum match requirement of 20%. The portion of the byway that goes through Wakulla County is about 90 miles of the whole corridor, and the way showing an interpretive sign plan lays out the numbers that you see there for signage and interpretive panels just within Wakulla County. So we're talking about 5 of the portal signs, which are like the gateway signs into the communities, 11 exhibits, 37 interpretive panels, and 22 side approach markers for a total cost of just under $300,000. The locations of those signs and interpretive kiosks are there on the board for you. We have Newport Park is where one of our gateways are. The Wakulla Welcome Center would have an interpreted kiosk, as well as the Big Bend Maritime Center. The cities of St. Mark's and Sopchoppy are both gateway communities for the byway, so theirs would also be included in that. And then we have others at the Florida National Scenic Trail, the National Wildlife Refuge, and then the Division of Forestry Fire Tower. So to date, and we're really, I have to say, very pleased about this. Over the last 2 or 3 months, as I said earlier, Diane and I have been meeting with other local governments and state and federal agencies to gather up the pledges for match support that we need for the grant. And to date, we have raised about $114,000, a little over. $13,000 of that is in-kind match that we got from the refuge for site preparation that they've agreed to do for us, but the rest of it is in cash, and that's really significant, especially in these times. So as you can see, we have almost met our minimum match requirement. Actually, I think that was on a previous slide, but what we're asking of Wakulla County is that you match. We received pledges by Leon and Franklin County in the amount of $25,000, and we're asking for Wakulla County to do the same. The significant thing about this is that while we have to have a letter of commitment stating that the money is pledged when the application goes in, which the cycles should be opening pretty much any day now, sometime within the next couple of months probably. But the funding is not going to be needed until the grant is actually awarded, and that will be at the very earliest in fiscal year 11-12, and will go through fiscal year 13-14, and maybe even into the next one, so that the pledge that we're asking you to make can be spread out over 2 and possibly 3 budget years.
And you anticipate that coming out of the TDC budget?
No, TDC does not have that budget. TDC is asking for the county to support that. So these are the sources of support that we've gotten to date. Leon and Franklin counties have committed $50,000 total. That's $25,000 each. The cities of Apalachicola, Sopchoppy, Carabel, and St. Mark's have all pledged cash. Summer Camp has pledged us a little over $5,000 in cash, as well as they're going to help us with a foundation grant to the St. Joe Foundation for another $10,000. Fish and Wildlife has come up with a little over $2,000. As I said, the refuge has provided in-kind match, and we've even had a Blue Crab Festival say that they would be willing to provide some cash match for us to help with the interpretive kiosks at the Welcome Center. So really the request is twofold. The Wakulla County Tourist Development Council is interested in being the agent for this grant, which means that Wakulla County would be the grantee at the time that the application is developed. Because this is a construction contract, these funds are national funds, but they go through State Department of Transportation. And in order to do construction grant funding, you have to be a LAP agency, which is a local agency partner, I think is the acronym for that. But anyway, Wakulla County is LAP certified, so that's one of the reasons why we want Wakulla County to be the grantee. The other is that it will provide some administrative dollars that can come back to the county for administering the grant, which the TDC intends to do. We don't intend to burden your grant staff with that. That would be handled by TDC. So we're asking for your support in being the grantee. The application would come back to you, will come back to you if you agree to be the grantee for approval before it's submitted. So we're not asking you to, approve a blind application. We just want your support before we start doing the work that it takes to put together an application. And then again, we're asking that you commit to the $25,000 match over those following 3 fiscal years. But it would just be in the form of a letter of commitment at this point whenever we submit the draft application. I would note that Commissioner Arts is the representative on the Big Bend Scenic Byway Corridor Management Entity for the Wakulla County Commission. We did the presentation to the Choice Development Council and then also met with staff, our budget director, who is now our interim county administrator at the time, and talked through this. So we felt we had good feedback in that meeting and felt like it was a positive thing. So,
okay.
I move to approve Wakulla County TDC as the grantee and administrator of the 2011-12 National Scenic Byway Program grant application and approve a pledge of a $25,000 cash match from Wakulla County to be spread over 3 budget cycles.
Second. We have a motion by Ms. Arts and a second by Mr. Brock. I have one citizen, Diane.
I think she's probably here for questions.
Board? Kim, how do we, I know it's not a lot of money, but how are we intending on paying for this? Is there any source of funding, non-ad valorem funding, I'm thinking that could be?
Well, ad valorem is an option, but I was more thinking if we could allocate some Parks and Rec 1 cent sales tax, $8,300 for over 3 years.
It is actually going to physically construct something, as I understand.
Several.
And I'm glad somebody finally noticed Smith Creek, by the way. But if we could do it with non-ad valorem funding, I'd probably support it anyway, but I just prefer it not to be. And I think that's a good idea, what you said.
I think we can definitely do it without ad valorem.
Can we incorporate that as part of your motion? That it be not ad valorem funding?
Why don't we say it's to be funded out of the 1 cent?
Well, we're going to have an opportunity when it comes back. I mean, one, we don't know if we're going to get the grant, and then whatever. I would probably not want to put those payments on it now until we...
And yes, you can, if you want to do that at the point of this will come back to you when we have our draft application. So, I need the pledge today so that we know what we can move forward with, but details like if you wanted to say in your letter where the money was coming from or whatever, you could do that at a later time.
So we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
It's a wonderful, this group has done a wonderful plan, and I think getting these built and helping to promote our tourism will be a real asset. So thank you.
Okay, Mr. Barden.
Okay, Commissioners, next item up is a board update on options for consideration on the Wakulla County, or the Wakulla Equestrian Project. Commissioners, the last time we left this project was November 4th. We had direction to move forward with drafting 2 RFPs for your consideration. One was to purchase and move an arena in Moultrie, Georgia, to here onto the site that we anticipate having the equestrian center. The other ITB was to test the market for just an arena without a cover, just about the stalls and the rails and whatever else gets put into an arena. When we started to try to draft a scope of work to include in the ITB for the Moultrie facility, it was determined that staff did not have the expertise on hand in-house to draft such a scope because you were going to be required to go up to Moultrie. look at that arena, see what is required to take it down, as well as wind load it for Wakulla County, and then go to the site here. So it was determined that we would need one of our on-call engineers to help us with drafting the scope, which is approximately about $17,000 to do that. We wanted to bring this back to the board for your consideration because we didn't want to spend any more upfront cash on the grant without vetting it through the board first. So what we crafted was 3 options moving forward. Option number 1 is to exactly do that, contract with Preble Rish to draft us a scope to include in the ITB, release the ITB, and see what the cost would be to purchase that arena in Moultrie. The next option would be to, or the next step in the process would be just to issue an ITB for just an arena, with all the bells and whistles that go with that. It was presented in your last item on November 4th. An example was Rodeo West. We think we could do somebody here in Florida or a local vendor as opposed to going to Texas for those items. So we're asking approval to issue an ITB and see what we come back with. And the third is to, while we're dealing with the arena, the second component of the grant was to build a concession stand in the bathroom and set up the parking. We're asking for approval for a task order for Preble Rish to design the bathroom as well as the parking area, and then issue an ITB and release that so we can start that process simultaneously because we're up against the grant deadline of April 31st to move forward.
Consideration to move forward with options number 2 and 3 as outlined above.
Second.
There's motion by Mr. Barr, seconded by Ms. Arts for option 1, which 1 and 2. Considering option 2 and 3. Is there a second? Yes, we have a second. Any citizens to be heard? Okay, board discussion?
I have that famous question, where's the money coming from?
This is all going to be grant funded, Commissioner.
Tim, do we have time to go through and hold ourselves to the same standard as anyone else, which is a site plan, stormwater plans? I talked to Summer about this. I don't know if anybody's thought about this, or anybody that's tried to get anything approved by the county. These things take 2 or 3 months. If we're going to follow, if we're going to make somebody else do something, I think we have to do it ourselves. I hate to say that, but
yeah, I don't think our building official lets us off on any of those things, so I think we have to go through any process that anybody else would have to serve. Hopefully they could speed it up for us a little bit, but
I assume it's going to have more than 10,000 square feet of impervious space. Would that be a safe assumption? The bathroom, the parking, you got to count everything.
No, I don't think we're going to need the parking as natural, so we're not going to be concreting that. So I think mostly we're looking at 44,000 square foot bathroom potentially.
So the site plan can be approved in-house is what I'm getting at, Summer?
Yes.
It's under, okay. Then we got to have stormwater permits from the Water Management District. You have to have a permit to extend the sewer line. You got to have a permit to extend the water line.
Helen, thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Alan Wise with Preble Rish Engineers. Speaking specifically to option 3, we are anticipating less than 4,000 square foot of impervious not subject to vehicular loading, and less than 5,000 subject to vehicular loading. So that would exempt us from the Water Management District rules and regulations.
From the Water Management also?
That's right, specifically Water Management.
I wasn't aware of that.
You fall below their permitting threshold if you have less than 9,000 square foot impervious, 4,000 of that being subject to vehicle, 5,000 not subject to vehicle.
Giddy up then.
Ms. Arts?
At some point, this may become a covered arena, and then we'll have more stormwater issues, but we've had some discussion about making sure there's room to do swirls and whatever in that event eventually.
My only concern was the time constraint, because I called the grant administrator for this, and I know I've heard different stories, but she told me if it was not done complete, the whole scope of work on that date, we don't get a dime. And everything that we've spent, now I know I talked to Mr. Gray about it, and he said that if it's 50, but I know what she told me. She told me if it's not done, the grant's gone.
What's the date?
April, whatever it is. And it's got to be done and occupiable, I guess you'd say. CO on the bathroom, sewer lines run, arena in place, horseshoe pits built. Before we walk down this road, I just want to be sure. I mean, what are we going to do if it doesn't get done? I mean, we need to understand that I want to do something for sure, but we can possibly scale back the scope of work. She said you could scale back the scope of work, but I want staff to really think hard. Is this really feasible? Because I know how government works.
Well, I think that since we're not building an arena, I mean, not an overhead arena, I think purchasing the arena and having it assembled shouldn't take very long. I think the longest part of the process, and Alan can speak to that, is probably going to be the bathroom, getting that set up and constructed.
I'm talking about the bureaucracy part of it, the bid specs, the approval of bid specs, the review of the bid specs, the 3 weeks, 4 weeks bidding it out, the challenge somebody may put up because their price was, you understand. I'm talking about the bureaucracy part. If this was a private project, you could get it done in 45 days.
What part of April?
Last day. Go ahead.
I have one question. Maybe I didn't hear you right, but it says even with the pledge of whatever and the Wakulla Horsemen, the funding shortfall without unknown cost is approximately $85,000.
That's if we went with the arena in Moultrie. We would be...
Is that the one we're using? We're talking about number one?
No, we're not recommending that.
Okay.
And we've talked to the Horsemen's Association. They seem to be on board with the plan moving forward, so...
number 2 and number 3, okay.
I want some assurance, if the point Mr. Merritt makes, I want some assurance that we can get this done. Mr. Gray, you want to come tell us that you can get it done by April? If not, it'll come out of your budget.
His pocket.
Not budget that, too.
Mr. Merritt's correct. Their quotes are that we have to have it completely finished by the end of April. At the same time, the state also allows a fluctuation in which if we require 50% of an expenditure to that point, that they will allow whatever completion date to that point that we need to get to, as long as it does not exceed the minimum amount of time, which is another 60 days, which is also the requirement. So that puts it up for another period of time. I'm not going to kid you, this is a lot of work to do in a very, very short time. And you're putting pressure on the Parks and Recreation Director to do all the work again. So everything else I'm counting on my staff to cover. To answer your question, I would much rather try this after 3.5 years of telling the Horsemen we're going to work on something, and then finally tell them, no, we're not going to try it. I think they put their time forward. They're willing to step up and help us how they can. I believe it is going to require Frank's office help. It's going to require the administration to assist how they can as far as processing the work, getting the ITBs out, getting things done in a timely fashion. I think your selection by the commission to do item 2 and 3 at the same time is going to help a lot. The restroom facility is the hardest. Please understand the arena, it's a portable setup of different standards. It can be moved, it can be changed, it can be used for a lot of things. That's not the time-consuming part. The time-consuming part is going to be with the restroom facility getting completed and done and putting that pressure on whatever contractor you hire to do that. So that's where our scope of work comes in. Yes, sir.
Did you say that if we have 50% of the money spent, we get another 60 days?
Yes, sir. You have a timeline of which we have to submit our paperwork, our processing, and our closeout. Okay? Now, I'm not going to say the same politics we use here in the county aren't going to be used at the state to keep pushing for this thing to allow us to finish it. You're asking me, can we do it? If we get everything out in January, can we do it in 90 days? I don't think I have an option. I mean, we've built a lot of stuff in this county in a very quick time, but everything depends on our own county processes. This is an in-house system.
Mr. Gray, how long have we had this grant?
2008, I think.
Actually, earlier than that. It goes all the way back to 2006, back when the Wildlife Association...
Now we're in the 11th hour, and we got 90 days to complete it. That's just not very good time management on my part.
I agree.
And I support this 100%. I just want to be
realistic. I want to hear the grant administrator say that they'll give us 60 days. I want that word from somebody.
If I could see some of that in writing, that would put my mind at ease a lot.
I don't want to proceed without that.
I love horses. I love horsemen. I love outdoors, but I'm not going to vote for it as it is. We cannot, this thing will not be done by April. You can't. I've built buildings and I've put them together and I've moved them and put them back up, and then you got the county and rain and whatever. I don't want to take the chance myself of missing the grant.
I don't think the site's even cleared, is it, Ray? I mean,
there's site work, preparation and stuff, yes, still it's got to be done, but during the process of the ITB issued, there's a lot of things that'll take place. And Commissioner, you got a good point. I don't see just anybody doing this project and getting it done, but we've done many things in the past. I agree.
I'm just aggravated that we've had it this long, and now we're here, and we're going to lose the money. That's the unfortunate part.
This is not the only grant that I've heard that we did get or whatever, and we keep. How do we get a grant and then lose a grant? How do we fail to? Who gets the grant? Who loses it? Who doesn't perform in time? Why do we lose these things? It's here again. I'm just getting into this, but it's.
Those are great questions.
We got good money and then we lose it because this is probably not going to work. I'm not going to vote for it.
The only thing I can say is realize that Parks and Recreation, we've never had a grant we didn't finish. We've never given one back.
Well, you're close.
This will be the first one that has come up, and it's, again, you got an equestrian center that we're building. The county has an equestrian area that the horsemen maintain and monitor now at the Ag Center. They have got to move for reasons of property for the Ag to expand. There has been a grant gone after, it has been received, and there's been a long timeline. First thing was $400,000 originally, and it was cut to $200,000, and it was cut to $138, I think it is. So they've continually cut the grant down, and we've had to maintain the scope of work. So it just makes it easier on me if you're saying we're not going to be doing this one. I'm
saying I'm not going to vote for it.
Yes, sir.
No, that's not true, Ray, because the scope of work has actually increased. If you look at the scope of the work from where we started, it has increased. So the statement about it, anyway, we're where we are. It's we can talk about it all night, but let's don't.
Can I make a quick suggestion? I'm sorry, Alice. Can we see if we can scale back the scope of the grant? I think the thing that's going to take the longest is building the bathrooms, the permanent structure. I don't know if buying the horse arena on whatever, bidding it out, clearing the site, Cleve could do that quickly. I'd like to do something, but I want to be realistic that we probably can't do all of it. But buying a horse arena and putting it up, yes, that can probably be done by April 30th. And horseshoe pits, the trails, a lot of that stuff can be done. It's when you start trying to get state permits that you really get bogged down. And
will they let us do that?
I don't know. That's what I'd like to see. If we don't use the whole grant, can we do a portion of the project and at least get the horsemen something? May not get everything, but
I don't mind getting them something. I just don't want to have to pay for it.
I'm with you.
If we can take the grant and if we take the grant and get the building, forget the bathrooms until a later time, I can go along with that because it seems like you could get the building and get it up.
Well, it's not actually a building, I don't correct. It's a arena, fencing basically.
Yeah.
So it's not a building, so it's relatively, they come pre-made, I think, and so if we could do something.
Well, this is a frustrating subject to me. How is it that we need our county building folks? Why is it impossible for us to not ask them to move? Why can't, and when we're doing something for the county, why can't we stretch the rules, remove the rules? I was talking to a guy who was building a pole barn for the county, and 4 weeks later he couldn't get his permits. building a pole barn, which is, you know, it's frustrating that...
Commissioner, are you saying, I don't want to take anything away from our building department.
No,
They are very cooperative, and I want to be sure.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, can we not stretch the rules? Do we have to...
If as Chairman said, if you want to put me on the line, if y'all are willing to go the distance, I'll go the distance. Parks and Rec, but it's going to take the building department, it's going to take administration, it's going to take the whole works to do it. And I'm just, that's on that end. And Commissioner, I understand 100%.
I'm not sure if it's the local permits. I mean, I think we're more concerned about state permits, and perhaps there's wetlands, we may have to have environmental permitting done. So it's those types of things that I think could really bog it down that we don't really have control over.
Exactly. Director Gray, do you feel that if we extended, if we had 60 more days, we could finish this project? Or do you feel like that still is time prohibitive?
The reason I mentioned the 60 days is because that's what we had discussed, because in a normal process, it takes that long. We've done a lot of buildings on the coast, we've done a lot of buildings all over this county, and in doing so, it's another 60 days. Permitting is a killer. It is. You can ask any citizen that's tried to get a permit to drill a well or to build a building bigger than 12 by 12. It's a major issue. At the same time, those are the rules we live by. This is what we do. I would not suggest that we ever break any. At the same time, if we can work within those rules, it's going to involve all parties. I mean, I can commit right now, say, I'll try and Parks and Rec pay the budget out of our share. But as soon as I say that, and the building department says, well, maybe not. We'll take 3 months to approve a bid. I can't do that, Commissioners. All I can say is we're all in the same boat here. We're trying to get something for citizens if we can do it.
I'll reiterate my concern. I heard you state that we're supposed to be done by the end of April with this project, but you have had experience in the past where grants have been extended past that to finish the completion of the project. I'd be amenable to changing our motion so that if you can get something like that in writing, that we can move forward with it now, so that we can start to expedite this process instead of waiting to get that in writing for our next meeting and having to vote on it again there. So that if you can get it in writing tomorrow, we can move forward starting tomorrow versus waiting until early January.
Okay.
Do you think it's possible?
I'm glad you followed up that with a question. For us to do this involves a lot of politics, and there are a lot of people in South Florida who would love to have this $138,000. There's other counties that would love to fight for the money, which they're all asking for money right now, for grants that did not get funded. If it goes up for grabs, it'll be gone in a heartbeat. Okay. Question is, can I get it extended? I won't know till I play the game. But if you could, if we can't go forward without that, I think give me a week or so to see what I can do, if I can get an answer. And approved, if it could be approved pending that written statement, because if we have to wait for another commission meeting in January, I can tell you now, we'll never make it.
Is this the only grant we would ever get for that sort of thing?
The grant process is very competitive, and this is one of the only grants that are still getting funded from the state level. So to say that would be, we're competing with a lot of folks for a lot less money.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
could Eva say, comment a little bit? Would that be okay with you?
Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner. FODAMP is the grant, the source that is providing the money for this. There are some other sources of funding out there that I've been able to identify for equestrian type their foundations, primarily to the state of Florida. FODAMP is really the only one that I know that provides for the recreation and things like that. As far as getting an extension on this grant, I believe, based on some conversations that I've had with Tamika Bass, if they see that we have made substantial progress, it's feasible that we might get an extension, but we won't know that until we reach a certain point in the process.
So we may get halfway down the road and we're not going to make it, and we still won't get the money, and we're hell, I was in the bag, so that's right back to where we started.
They have been good, Commissioner, about giving us an extension on some other projects that we needed to finish, the Hickory Park and others, and that is correct. We do have a certain period of time after the grant terminates to submit the closeout and the reimbursement and the certifications of completion and that kind of thing. So.
It sounds to me like we'd be crossing our fingers, hoping to get the extension. I still think it's a good idea. Let's get what we can. I think we can get the arena. We can bid it out, assemble it. We can get the state permits, like Heather said, are what really scares me. Frank's a piece of cake to work with to get a permit. I'm not worried about getting a permit from the building department. That'll be in a few days with the correct plans. It's the state permits. They take a while. They have to be engineered. They have to be submitted to DEP in Pensacola for an extension for a wastewater facility. I know all that stuff. It takes a while. And then once you got your permit, then you bid it out. So I'd like staff to take a look at scaling this back, and I don't want to wait till the next meeting. Can we authorize you to, do something?
You can do anything you want. I'll do it.
I mean, I think you understand our sentiments and you understand our concerns that we don't want to be stuck holding the bag on this thing. I'm not comfortable taking a chance, no offense, to be hoping that we get an extension at the 11th hour. What if we don't? Then we're paying all this out of pocket for money we don't have.
So we have a motion right now to move forward with as it is with 2 and 3. Do we want to amend that motion or take that motion off the floor and start over? What do we want to do?
I support that motion for 2 reasons, well, 3. The Horsemen's Association has been, they want to see this project, and I think if we turn the grant down now, we're doing them a disservice. Maybe it's because I'm an optimist, I think, even though we're down to the wire, we did some analysis last Friday, and people seem to think they can get it done or get enough done that our prospects for an extension are good. So,
Commissioner,
and this is the plan. If we, FERDAP, we usually have 3 FERDAP grants at a time. We count on this as a funding source. I think it's going to look terrible if we turn this down. But everybody is going to need to work hard to make this happen. I think it's feasible, though, so I'm going to support the motion.
I just wanted to say that in conversations with Ms. Bass that I've had, I have asked her, and primarily we were talking about the Moultrie, Georgia arena, and she basically said if you have 50% of the grant completed by April, she said you're going to be fine. Okay?
Y'all get that in writing, I think all of us would be
I do have it in writing, as far as 50% of the primary. And I do have that. She did send an email because Mr. Barton had requested that in writing. And she said as long as you do 50% of the primary, you're going to be fine. I believe that if we do 60% and we reach April the 30th, that Ms. Bass would be willing to give us an extension.
Okay. So we've got a motion on the floor still, the motion you made, Ms. Arts, and a second.
That one dropped me. I think I seconded.
Pardon me? You. Okay. That's the motion that's on the floor. Tim, did you have something to add?
I was just going to ask, Alan, can you come back? I just want to ask you a question. The design, the bathroom is the biggest component. I agree, Commissioner, we should scale it back because, the grant was $200,000. We only got $138, but the project was never really scaled back to match that funding. So but the only place we could scale back is the arena because we can't have the arena out there without the bathroom. So that's the problem, and the bathroom is the longest and the arduous process of the whole grant. In your estimation, I'm assuming your company's done a lot of these projects. Is this an unrealistic time frame? Are we sticking ourselves really out here? Because I'll go lobby on behalf of the county with Tamika Bass or whoever I need to get the extension personally. But I just don't want to put all of us on the hook here and not be able to do it. So.
I agree, and you want a short answer. I want to expand it a little bit. Speaking to the state permits, for the restaurant facility and the 2 ADA parking spaces that would be necessary right next to it, I don't think we're going to trip any thresholds that will force us into a state stormwater permit. Speaking to a DEP permit for water and sewer extensions, it's my understanding that the county can extend services from their existing utilities without a wastewater or a water system permit.
Trust me, a commercial pump station requires a DEP permit.
Okay. The DEP permit, then that will be our most time-consuming portion of it.
Tell me if I'm wrong, man. They do change the rules from time to time.
Good evening, Commissioners. Cliff Nauer, Level-ish. It's a single service connection. I think it will be exempt from going through the Pensacola office for extension. It's a single service connection. It'll be a grinder pump. It won't be a master lift station of any sort. I think it will be exempt. With regard to the stormwater, that'll definitely be exempt. So there'll be no permits of any sort that I'm aware of, unless for some reason DEP is going to require you guys to have something different than we do everywhere else. So I believe that it is exempt.
I just didn't know if the distance and the force main size, and given that, if it was commercial, if it would trip can you find that out?
Yeah, sure. Quickly.
That would be a major component of my thinking. If you don't need the DEP and state permits, I think maybe it's doable then.
All it's going to be is a grinder pump with 1,000 feet of 2-inch HDPE. It's something that is done all the time as long as it's a single service connection. That's what DEP uses for their guidelines to trigger the permit. If we had 4 or 5 or 6 different facilities going out here, they would look at it much differently. So it's a single service connection. I'm about 95%
Yeah, they
sure
changed the rule at some point, like Walgreens, they had to have a permit for their little grinder pump, but I think at some point they changed the rule.
There was a master lift station facility, and when you submit master lift station facilities, they do require full review. So this would be a grinder pump. With regard to the plans, we could have the plans together and specs together. 10 days, 2 weeks, plans and specs together and ready. The quickest thing, really, the only way that in my opinion, that I can see you guys getting this done is if you authorize moving forward today and be ready to advertise really within the next 2 weeks for contractors. So if we could go through and have the plans done in 2 weeks, have an advertisement ready to go out within a week after that, I think you could get it done. We can't wait till the January meeting to start things.
I have a question. Has anyone looked into the number of bathrooms that's required for this facility?
Well, because there's not a fixed building and there's not fixed seating, it actually does not have a minimum number of stalls or a minimum size restroom. You'll have to meet ADA requirements, but there's not a minimum size restroom.
If this is an arena, it's called out in the building code how many is required for an arena. Doesn't say whether it has to be a building or not, just an arena. It's 1 male and 2 female for each 75 people that may be at this site. Has anyone looked at that?
Yeah, I don't think that, how are you going to anticipate how many people are going to be at your events?
Are you providing any seating?
None that I'm aware of at this time. I'm sure they'll add benches at a later time. But right now, from what I understand, it's just the fencing.
So I think the county would be remiss if they didn't figure out how many they may have in the future if they build something and they build a facility now that's going to be useless to them in the future.
Every restroom I've ever done has been set up to be expandable. I just got done doing an equestrian arena and restroom and parking facilities in Washington County, and pretty familiar with the requirements.
You said 2 handicap spots. How many anticipated parking spaces are you anticipating?
It's going to be gravel parking.
gravel parking? How many cars can you...
It requires one space for every 25 spaces. How many spaces are you going to have?
Planning on carrying all these issues out.
I'm just saying, that's a cost you need to look at, possible square footage of water management district looking at a building if you don't have a big enough site.
There's a lot of things I think we need to look at. Cliff verifying that permit's not necessary. I trust you on the stormwater, but the other ones, the possibility of an extension. I think if we don't need the state permits, it's, it's doable. There is some risk though, still. And that's all I was trying to do is bring up this risk.
Well, the big issue is you got to start somewhere. If you're putting down gravel parking, it's a matter of how many cars you can fit on the gravel parking that you provide. I mean, it doesn't trigger any state permit if you're going to have gravel parking. So I think it can be done, but things are going to have to move very fast.
Mr. Moore.
The fact that we're so late on this grant, I hope that my no vote on this will be wrong and that this thing will go forward. We're so late on the grant. I'm going to vote against it, but yet I hope it passes.
Mr. Stewart, is there any way we can put this responsibility on you to make sure this happens? Well, I mean, there's several things we need to find out that if they are true or if they aren't true, are going to depend on whether this thing can happen. We need that decided before the next meeting.
I don't mind that. Y'all want to give me the responsibility to do that, that's fine. I'm going to tell you, I am really, really upset that we've allowed this to get to the 11th hour.
I am too.
We have frittered this away. Frittered it away for 3 stinking years. And here we are in a long discussion about whether we can get it done or not. That's not fair. It has nothing to do with the Horseman Association. This has to do with staff. And I'm really upset to back for somebody needs to be held accountable for being stupid in this case. I mean, really do. So I'm with Jerry. I'm not sure I want to vote for it. I want it to be approved, and I would like to think we're going to get it done, but you said it best earlier, we're accountable for the spending of the county's funds.
Can you incorporate the things I just soon authorized Mike to find out these information, find out if they're true or not, and just let him make the call on it.
I'm fine with that. I'll work with whoever it is. If y'all want to do that.
We got to stop being bogged down with bureaucracy. I say let the man make a call.
Fine with that. If y'all want to trust me to do it, we'll go forward. And if I see it, we need to cut it off and say no, then I'll say no. And
that's what I'm saying.
Next motion. Are y'all fine with that?
Well, Lynn made the original motion, and then I'll we want to amend it.
Mr. Chairman, I can give you an answer on the sewer in the morning. Give you a definite answer on the sewer in the morning. That'll eliminate any state permits being required. I think that changes the game significantly.
Get something in writing that says they'll give us a 60-day extension if we're 50% along.
And if those two things are true, or I'm sure they are, it's never been wrong. But if those things come to pass, then I'm much happier with this.
That's it for me.
Okay. Sign fine with that, Ms. Arts. Okay. So, Devlin, you have that? Thank you. All on Stewart. It's not anything against you, sir. So don't.
Yes, sir.
You understand where we are.
He needs
to
roughing up every once in a while.
Okay. All right. So all that said, all for the motion.
Aye.
Opposed? No. We have 4 for and 1 against. Motion carries. Let's take a 5-minute bathroom break.
I couldn't believe that the county. Nobody thought it was allowed to. They knew out on these grounds.
Well, how you doing? I am doing good.
We've been enjoying the market.
Orange is great.
Just keep them moving. We're good.
If we can get everybody to take their seats and quiet down, please, I'd appreciate it. And Mr. Jones, if you quit talking, that'd help too. Thank you. I'm just kidding, Mr. Jones. Thank you. We'll turn it back over to you, Tim. We're on item 22.
Thank you, Commissioners. Last item on general business is a request for board consideration and direction regarding two scheduled board meetings in 2011 and the possibility of rescheduling due to conflicts with Comcast, and also an update on the 2010-11 holiday schedule. Basically, Commissioners, we have two meetings in in 2011, the January 18th and the February 22nd meeting that Comcast cannot televise for us. We're asking board direction how you want us to handle that. Also, it's just, we're laying out the new holiday schedule for your approval regarding when the holidays fall on the weekends. We want to make sure we're all square with our holidays. So, turn off you.
Board, what do you desire to do here?
I would say let them work it out. We'll go along with it.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's any working this out. We either got to move the meetings or have the meetings without Comcast.
Correct.
I mean, that's the choices we have, so just need somebody to motion to have the meetings without Comcast, or let's move the meetings.
Just two meetings?
Two meetings.
Just two.
Right, the January 18th and February 22nd.
Do we have to do anything more than just put it in the agenda to move the meetings?
Advertise.
If we have to advertise, I'd say do without Comcast. If we can do it with just putting it in the agenda paperwork here, I'd say just...
I think we're going to advertise anyway. We have to advertise anyway.
Okay. You have to advertise the meetings wherever.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it doesn't, moving them's fine with me. So.
Well, we're going to move them to. That's the question.
Tuesday?
Well, they're on Tuesdays now. Tuesday the 18th and Tuesday the 22nd is where we are now. We'd have to move them to another.
I'm looking at something totally different.
So the following Monday, January 24th, and Monday the 28th is what's being proposed. As, and Comcast says they can do on those days. Okay.
I'll move the dates to the 24th and the 28th and approve the holiday schedule.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Brock to move them to the 24th, January 24th and February 28th, and approve the holiday schedule.
Second.
Second by Mr. Merritt. I want to make sure now we've looked ahead to the December, January and fixed that this year, okay? Any other discussion?
I'd like to know if there's any receptivity to get away from the Monday meetings. When we had the Tuesday meetings, I found that much easier with getting documents on Friday and having time to review them and have meetings with staff, and then you don't have to keep switching with the holidays.
Comcast has expressed they can't be here on Tuesdays.
Okay. Do we know when it conflicts with Leon County?
I don't know off the top of my head when Leon County meets. I know it's on Tuesday evening, correct? Is it every Tuesday?
No, I think it's every third and fourth Tuesday, or whatever, first and third Tuesday. I'm not sure, but I know it's not every Tuesday. We'd have to check with Comcast to see when they're in Leon, and then report back to you if we can work it in between the meetings.
Well, I would appreciate that information, even if we don't make a change now.
Okay, so we'll proceed with moving these two dates for now and find that information out and address that at a later date.
We'll bring it back to you.
we're not doing anything tonight.
I think, Jessica, we're just looking to see when Leon meetings are and see if we could fit Comcast in on Tuesdays.
All we're going to do tonight
On the
is
alternative.
move the meeting to January 24th or February 28th and approve the holiday schedule. That's a motion that's on the floor. Any citizens to speak on this? For discussion by the commission? All for the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Commissioners, that concludes general business. I
Thank
appreciate
God.
your patience and with me, first time out, so thank you.
Okay, you did a good job. You've kept us here as long as you could. Sure job.
Working those items.
All right, we'll move on to commissioner agenda items. Commissioner Brock?
I have a commissioner agenda item tonight about my update to the board on options for solid waste collection improvements and approval to schedule a workshop. I've also just handed out, it was provided earlier today at the office, but you may not have got it yet, agenda item number 23, attachment 1, which was an email from Mr. Walter Nickel and an email from Heather Insanosa, just talking about two different statements that they had made regarding this agenda item and questions I had asked. I apologize for getting them to you so late. I believe Mr. Nickel is here. If you have questions, then he can help address them too. Who did our initial study for the solid waste assessment, and he has another person from his office with him, and they've been here for a few hours, so we may give them the chance to speak briefly, one way or the other. I tried to express after, I appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity to go out and try and find alternative ways to fix our solid waste problem we have in Wakulla County. What I have suggested is moving forward and trying to schedule a workshop. I've tried to provide a great deal of information of what the choices are and the options are. My suggestion, and what I'd like to see us move forward with, is looking at deciding not to build a new transfer station and move forward with curbside service for solid waste pickup and recycling. And I think that's the direction we should move forward with. It's slightly, it's a cost that will provide a service versus having to charge a tax or a fee that doesn't provide any new services and having people have to pay additional on top of that. If you'd like to, we can have Mr. Walter Nickel say a few words and answer any questions you have about the original study that was done. If you'd like to come up.
Thank you very much. Walt Nickel with Jones, Edmonds & Associates. We've been here before. We presented kind of a timeline, a history of what's transpired to date, and I think a shorter presentation or discussion on that may be in order. We do have some new board members. What originally started in the spring of 2007, a feasibility study was done looking at the transfer station, the landfill, to determine what needed to be done. We looked at 4 different alternatives, and what came out of that feasibility study was alternate 4 was to build a new transfer station. It became the most beneficial, and to fund that, they looked at an assessment process. And out of that, it came to $112 per household per year would fund the construction of a new transfer station, would address closing the now inactive Class 3 landfill, continue the operation and maintenance costs, tipping fees, and everything. It was a comprehensive plan to do that. That plan was submitted to USDA, and out of that plan, you received a grant of, let me just refer to my numbers here, a grant of $713,500 and a low-interest loan for $1.5 million, basically. They extended those terms to 38 years and 3.5% interest. But that grant, when that was applied for, was based on the assumption that an assessment would be in place. And the reason that was there, it guaranteed a revenue stream. And USDA, when they looked at that entire package of the proposed transfer station, the closure of the fill, your operation and maintenance costs over the life of the project, that you had a steady revenue to pay for that. They felt with that it warranted the grant and loan. So that's the direction we were proceeding. Jones Edmonds was in the process of designing the transfer station, getting this ready for approval. As we came to a point where we needed to implement the assessments, that's when the board opted not to go with that route. So here we are today we have a grant and loan pending with USDA, but it's based on a certain set of conditions, and we have not met the conditions of the assessment. So we are now looking at some other alternatives. Commissioner Block has had an interest in the curbside pickup. We've had some numbers tossed around, vague numbers of what that cost will be. That's a difficult number to just say because every community is going to be different. Your demographics are different. The area you're covering is different. What you're going to include in that is different. So we gave him a proposal for us to look at that one step further, look at other areas, and we can talk about that a little bit more. I've got Mr. Don Holdings from our office who is much more of an expert in that than I am. But we could help you refine that cost, take the next step. Is this a viable option or not? I don't know if you want me to go into the funding alternatives that we talked about with USDA, or...
And it's important to at this point mention that if we make any changes, we have to reapply and get reapproved.
Yes.
So if we decide not to go with the solid waste assessment, if we decided to switch tax to a different tax or fee to move forward without providing a service but to fix the problem that we have, we'd have to reapply for that. But yeah, please go over this.
Yes, we met with USDA about 6 weeks ago or so to go over what other options do we have, and they're open and they're receptive if you would present to them a different method of funding. And we talked about using your existing sales tax, but part of that is committed to your roads and some other areas it's committed for, so it's not all available. You could add another half-cent tax to help cover that. There's some duration issues that could be a concern with that, how long those can stay in place. It's not really covering the life of the 20 years that we initially applied for in the grant, and they ended up giving you a 38-year loan. So those time frames are going to be substantially different. Your CST, or communication tax, or the PST tax could also be used for that.
Which is the Public Services Tax for your commissioners.
So you could use those as a source of funding. Regardless, the feasibility study that we did, and they had a detailed financial model that looked at operation and maintenance, closure of landfill, tipping fees with the transfer station, everything would need to be resubmitted to USDA with that new financial model. They would have to reevaluate that, and they said that would be about a 60-day process to reevaluate that. The outcome of that they couldn't predict. It could be where it still would be viable for the same grant and loan. It could come back where they could see you have sufficient revenue and you don't need USDA, and you could not get you may not get anything with a different submittal. So that's where we're at right now. If Mr. Bach has asked, he wanted to supplement just the transfer station, what we were doing, and I can go into that before. The $112 per household per year was going to cover the cost. People would take their garbage, residential customers would take their garbage to the transfer station at no cost to them, but they still had to deliver their garbage to the new transfer station. Commercial haulers, they would pay the tipping fee. They have, they pay that rate to bring their trash to the transfer station. They would still use local trash haulers right now, whatever agreement they would have. They would be using their haulers to get, if they want the trash to be picked up at their house and brought to the transfer station, they pay that independently.
Can I interrupt you 1 second? Because I think so. What was proposed? I know this didn't pass, but just to be clear, if you're a citizen, you could have dumped your trash for free.
Yes.
If a local garbage hauler picked your trash up, as long as he had household garbage, he was not charged a tipping fee either. Is that correct?
That's correct, because the residential unit customer has already paid that cost.
A lot of people did not understand that, because when you say commercial haulers, they think the garbage truck going down the road. I understand what you're saying is that if it came from a junior store or Walmart, that's commercial.
That's the commercial waste, commercially generated waste.
98% of people probably would assume that commercial hauler means the waste management garbage truck.
We went into some detail in that, and if there was still some misunderstanding, there could have been, but we did explain that quite in depth, that all they were paying for is the service for them to pick up the garbage and transfer it. They weren't paying a tipping fee there. So their costs, would be reduced what they're paying now. And we did say that the market would would generate. The competition is going to generate what that cost is going to be. But they don't pay a price. They don't pay double to dispose of the garbage. The garbage tipping fee cost is covered in the assessment. But anyway, we looked at if we wanted to bring curbside service into that also. That's the next step. If we want to pursue that, we need to do some additional studies. We need to do some investigations to get some better numbers, look at some other areas. But again, it's got to be a comprehensive cost. It has to include the closure of the landfill. That still needs to be done. It has to include the tipping costs. If you went with curbside pickup, essentially you could you're getting out of the garbage business completely. You're going to turn it over to a franchise for some period of years, 10, 20, 30 years, where you're going to put this process out for bid, and a public company, private company, is going to provide that service. If they need their own transfer station, they'll build their own transfer station. If they're going to direct haul, they direct haul, but the market's going to determine what that's going to be.
And that would be for Class 1 only? Would that be C and D or mattresses, for example? Was that?
I think it's
whatever.
It's all open. It will all be open. But to go that route, we need some better numbers than some round numbers that we're throwing out. What curbside pickup is going to be? It could be you've got a very rural area. There's some long distances. If you're going to pick up the people's trash, you have to do it for everyone. You can't just pick and choose the areas where it's economical. It's going to be for the whole county. So that could really affect the cost to Wakulla County, what that's going to be.
But the number we have for a similar county, Calhoun County, it's $150 per house per year.
But did that, what I don't know, if it include, we also have to address what's going to happen with the transfer station costs, with the closure costs. We've got a lot of costs. That's in 112. So are there other things that need to be factored into that? Those are things that we don't know. We need to do a little bit more study.
I want to throw out another option, if I could, that I did several years ago in a previous life, was I bid out having vendors come in, they build the transfer station, kind of like the arrangement we had with, what's her name before the county took over the transfer station? Argus. They build it, they permit it, they pay for it, they operate it with their people. I actually did a bid like that, and the number I got back, I think, now this is only for, this was combining C&D and household garbage, was like $47 or $48 a ton. Of course, the winning bid was from Veolia, so that didn't go very far. But anyway, so if a scenario like that were possible, where you go to a vendor and say, here, you do everything, operate the transfer station, build it, permit it, we're going to tack on an extra $5, $6, $8 a ton, whatever it comes out to, for long-term care to landfill, recycling, whatever. That's just another option I wanted to talk about. Curbside collection, mandatory is an option. That's a great option, I think, in a city or in an area with higher density. I don't know how good it would fit, because if you pick my trash up, you got to pick my dad's up in Smith Creek too, right. And they may not. That may jack the cost away, since we're such a rural county. But I'm willing to look at anything.
Well, the idea would be we'd have to prepare an RFP and see what bids came back to pick up the whole county. My impression from conversations I've had with there's some local vendors. I saw one is here to talk tonight. I've talked to a couple people who do this regionally who have expressed an interest in bidding on the process. There's an interest in people who do this, who say they can pick up who can do our solid waste and our recycling in Wakulla County. And to me, from looking over this and looking into this, I think it might be the best option for us. You get away from, make recycling more likely if you have a recycling bin at your house. So that will encourage people to recycle. You'll have fewer people. One of the things we have going on in Wakulla County right now is we have a lot of people who, and we know this just from the workshop we did, burn their trash, or carry their trash to Tallahassee and throw it away already in their offices. Or throw their trash in the woods. We know that from the tonnage we're collecting in the woods currently. Creed, how many tons do we collect every month?
Working with the Sheriff's Department through the Keep Wakulla Beautiful, we're averaging between 12 and 20 tons a month of illegal dumping that we pick up in the woods, on the side of the roads, and illegal dumps. So that is free dumping. That's the element of this county, the population of this county, who absolutely put nothing towards solid waste. And that's right now, when this was voted down during the workshop or last year, if you'd allowed everybody in this county to pick and choose whether they wanted to participate in the fire MSBU, it'd fail too. We have so many people in this county who do not pay anything for waste, and everybody generates waste. I don't care how much you recycle, at some point in time, you generate waste. Everything in this county has to be shipped out. And that's where the killer is. The recyclables have to be shipped out. The Class 1 waste has to be shipped out. The C&D has to ship out. And so, and we have a large problem with people dumping in the woods, and we go clean it up, and that element does not pay a thing for the solid waste that the other citizens are having to pick up the burden of the cost.
And it's been that way for a long time.
I had commercial properties, and the same people that didn't pay used my commercial dumpsters. You couldn't keep them out. They came in the middle of the night.
Yeah. And hopefully, if you start having trash pickup in front of everybody's house every week, that would change. I mean, I don't imagine people feeling the need to throw trash in the back of their truck and throw it in the woods if they can just easily throw it in front of their house in a trash can. I could be wrong. People have surprised me before. But I don't imagine that being a problem. And to me, and the other thing to consider is we have the option of whatever we do with the USDA is looking at a 30-plus year loan. So that's tying us into some obligation for 30 years. If it's a sales tax, if it's a solid waste assessment, if it's some sort of fee that we're talking about doing that's tying us into this for 30-plus years, that we have to commit to do this tax to pay for, or until we pay off the loan, if we pay off the loan early.
Yes, you have that option.
But that we have to commit to doing this. Or we can look at the similar thing with having our trash picked up. I don't know, I'm sure you're both all aware, what happens at a transfer station is you throw your trash in your sedan, you drive it 20 miles to the landfill, take it to pay the person, throw it in the transfer station, and then we ship that trash to Tallahassee. It's transferred from Wakulla to Tallahassee. The solid waste, what I'm talking about with the curbside service and recycling, we would take out that middle station and they would just drive the trash straight to Tallahassee. That's what I'm proposing we do. So you save money because we don't have to have a transfer station any longer.
And there would be one big vendor like a United Waste or a Waste Pro, or it would not. All small mom and pop would go away. We need to go ahead and throw that out there too.
You would have one vendor. You'd have some, and I know there's one here in the back. I saw the card. They're going to come talk, and we'll hear what they say. Some local vendors have proposed bidding on it. It would be one. What I'm proposing is one vendor. One of the three major vendors in Wakulla County. One has quit this week.
Right.
Our tipping fees, and I don't know if Mr. Johnson, who is here, is going to talk to this. Our tipping fees are high and are burdensome to our current providers because of things like what's going on with people just throwing their trash in the woods.
If we go, whatever way we go, if it affects the people who are hauling today and their investment, somehow I want to cover.
Well, and to that point, I'll mention again, I put it in here, there was, and it'll be talked about tonight, there is language that states that, and Heather was telling me I might be off with what I originally understood, so we'll be talking about, we can do this in our RFP, but the state requires that, I believe it's 13 months of the last net profits be paid back when the county takes over the trash.
Plus the cost of their equipment.
It'd be whatever they've collected for 13 months. So if they've collected, $250,000 over the last 13 months, we have to, whoever takes over would have to pay them back $250,000, which would be broken out in the contract for those 20 years we give to the vendor.
I can see that, but that doesn't cover the fact that the fellow's got $100,000 invested in equipment. That all of a sudden he's going to go down to he has no use for it anymore.
Well, and we can. So that being said, and I'll be glad we can put whatever we want in this RFP that we propose. And if we break it out, if we guarantee a vendor 20 or 30 years of a contract for the county, they can break those costs down over 20 or 30 years, so they can break that out over 20 or 30 years. If we say you have to pay out $1 million up front, that $1 million will be passed, if it's a private company, will be passed on, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, so they are still profitable. So we can say whatever cost we want up front when we put up the RFP.
But whatever you put in there drives the cost up to the
That's what I don't know if I was making that point clear. That's what I was trying to say, is if you say you have to give every company back everything to make them whole, plus some, that just is going to drive up the cost to our customers.
Well, I understand that, but if we don't have that many people who have that much equipment that's special, you're talking about special equipment where they have equipment that can't be used for any other use. So many of these trucks and so forth can be used as a family car or whatever. But I just don't want to leave the people who have equipment just hanging out there.
Okay. Are you through, sir, or you need to say more?
I think I can leave it at that. I mean, we've got two, just maybe to summarize, there are two components of this. What has been proposed to, as of a month and a half ago, the transfer station and the means to fund that, the closure of the landfill, and the operation costs. And that's the $112 per household per year. That is still an issue. It can be augmented with a curbside pickup, where they can be looked at as separately, but we still have the issue of trying to fund. We still need to close. We still need to do something with the transfer station. You still need to close the landfill.
And monitor
and continuing monitoring of the landfill. That still needs to go on. That's something that needs to be done.
Whether you want to, we can't get rid of it.
Well, and when he says close, let me clarify that a little bit. Doesn't mean just stop taking trash. It means put a PVC liner over it, and
Yeah, right now it's inactive.
Right.
You're not accepting waste anymore, but there's a process that you need to
in
go
layman's
through.
terms, I was just trying to explain it.
Yes.
It's not just close the gate
Yes,
and put a lock on
it
it.
needs to be properly closed per DEP. But that needs to go, whether you want to augment that, and we need to still find the funding to go with that. If the assessment's not going to proceed, the alternate funding, and then whether you want to augment that with a curbside pickup program.
I appreciate all your work on this, Alan, and I'm glad we're going to have a workshop. I guess I was wondering a little bit about the timing of the workshop. I know we have a January 6th workshop scheduled to talk about licensing and whatever, and I didn't know if they should all be done together or how that should work now.
Well, we got a couple citizens to be here. Let's hear them, and then let's talk about what we're going to do. Let's get this. John Johnson.
Good evening. My name is John Johnson, and I'm with J&C Garbage Service. We've been providing garbage service here since 2001. We pick up in all corners of the county. We don't exclude anybody. We provide a service for anybody that wants service here in the county. We'll go and pick their garbage up. We want to continue to do so. We provide a good service. We provide quality service. When you start talking about looking at a bigger company, of course they're going to pick your garbage up and they're going to take it away. But right now, we go over and above that service. We provide a senior rate to senior citizens right now, a reduced rate. We go and pick up backyard service for those people that can't pull the garbage can out to the road, free of charge. And like I said, we don't exclude anybody. One of the companies here now, Waste Pro, they send out flyers saying if you live within, so many miles of 319, we'll pick up your garbage, or if you live in a subdivision, we'll pick up your garbage. But they're not going to pick up for anybody else if you live out in Smith Creek or Shell Point or wherever. we pick up garbage for all of those folks. The option that y'all presented in the last meeting to place an assessment on everybody and let them, give them the option to either take their garbage to the landfill or let someone else pick it up, I think would have worked for everybody. If you regulate that thing, everybody would have to comply. Everybody, all the companies that are picking up would have to comply. So you'll still have, like I said, you'll still have that quality service. You have to have good equipment, and you have to have good insurance. You have to have all those things in place to pick up garbage here. And I know that there's a lot of trash being thrown out on the sides of the road, but I've worked in Leon County for a number of years with the Sheriff's Department up there. And I'm telling you, they pick up just as much garbage on the side of the road up there, and they have two garbage companies, Waste Pro and Waste Management, picking up garbage up there. So people that are going to throw their garbage out of the window along the roads out here, they're still going to do that, whether you have Waste Pro here or somebody else. If they contract it out, like you said, it's probably going to be a 20-year deal, and the citizens are still going to have to pay. They're going to have to pay, and probably going to have to pay more than that $112 that you're talking about taxing the people. And like I said, we have a lot invested in this thing. We have a lot of employees, not just us, combined with the other garbage haulers here. We have a lot of equipment. We have a lot of money tied up in this thing, and it's all going to go away if you hire or go and let someone else come in here and start picking up the garbage. Like I said, it goes a long way back. This thing is personal. Like I said, it goes back a long way. A lot of the original customers my dad had, they still, like I said, it's like house calls. They still contact him or call. It's a personal, personal relationship they have with some of these folks. But the main thing, like I said, the quality of service. We will go one above just picking up the garbage and taking it away from here.
Hey, Mr. John, let's hit the board member. Got a couple questions for you.
I have a question. Could you pick up the garbage? Could you pick up the garbage for the whole county?
I could, but like I said, there are other companies here to consider also. I believe we could pick up. I know we could pick up the garbage for the whole county.
Are the other companies the same size as your company?
There's a couple that are the same size. I know they mentioned that somebody have already dropped out of this thing. I don't know who that is, but you have other companies. RGS is one of residential garbage service. They provide a very good service here.
How many do you pick up for?
Right now it's probably about 1,100.
How many households we got? How many we got? We went to a lot. How many?
15,000.
15,000? 13,000.
Right.
Okay.
Like I said,
my question was the same question. I've spoken to Mr. Johnson before. He was expressing interest in taking over the franchise for the county.
Well, like I said, my take on that is if you were going to try to contract it out to one company, of course we wanted to be able to compete and bid for that also. But like I said, it'll still be taken away from the other companies here.
Could you possibly, if we gave you the contract, could you not subcontract to those people? Most of them. Now, there's some of them probably
That's
could.
something that we could discuss amongst each other. I mean, like I said,
I want to keep our money in the county. I want to keep county people at work.
Thank you, sir.
Just so long as the job gets done. It doesn't.
We can't. I mean, I want to see y'all stay and work too. I'm gonna get there in a minute, but we can't. I mean, there's got to be a bid process, and he's got to win the bid.
That. But we do have an allowance for county people bidding, do we not?
We do. We wait, we mentioned that local votes local bids are weighted a little.
I want to weight them a whole lot, because if we keep the dollars in the county, they just keep spinning around, and we get them back.
I think they're weighted 5%.
5%.
Yeah, I'd like to go to 10.
Okay. Now, let's get on to the next person, and we're going to talk more about it, but thank you for your input. Lorinda Sanders.
Lorinda Sanders, 72 Longleaf Drive. My husband has one of the local garbage services. About 4 years ago, we had waste management here in Wakulla County. They all of a sudden pulled out. Their excuse was they could not afford the tipping fee, which is $85 a ton. We were called by the county manager at that time for a meeting along with Mr. Johnson, and we were led to believe that if we stepped up to the plate and helped out the citizens of the county, because it left like 1,800 customers without garbage service. None of us were equipped to handle it at the time, so we all go out, we go into debt to step up to the plate. That's been 4 years ago. We have not been helped out with a tipping fee at all. It's still $85. We're still doing the same service that we did. We stepped up for the county, and I think that it's time the county stepped up for the local people. If you go to one company, contract out to Waste Pro, that's going to affect several employees. There's going to be a lot of people without jobs. We're going to be out and paying a bill that we would not, and I can promise you we would not have gotten had we not been led to believe that we were going to be helped. A loan that we're having to pay back. You're also going to affect ESG's contract. If you close down that landfill and no transfer station, there's also employees there that you have to consider. So I'm just asking you to look at the whole picture, and the assessment that they came up with, which I've met with Mr. Barden, they worked on for 3 years, that they presented to you that was voted down. I hope that you will look at that again, and I think that's the best way to go. I don't want taxes any more than anybody else, but if you look at it in the long run and you spread it out over a year, that's $9.90-something a month. So you don't eat at McDonald's maybe twice. You know, that would pay the $112 tax that you would have at the end of the year.
How many people do you haul for?
A little over 1,100. So if anything happens, and and I can tell you this, all of the 3 larger companies here in the county, we're all having trouble now with the tipping fee, paying the tipping fee, because it is so high. All of us are having problems because we're not being helped. And I've discussed this with everybody on the board except you, Commissioner Moore. You're the only one that I haven't had email with, and Mr. Merritt, I have spoke to him on the phone once. So they're aware of what's been going on and the battle we've been fighting, and it's not one that we just started. It's one I've been working on for 3 years.
Here again, my feeling is that we stay local and we give you a benefit to keep the money in the county, to keep it circulating locally. It really, really stays in the county, and it really keeps coming back. Somehow, it'll be my direction that we work with you folks to see how we can do this. What we really want to do is get the job done, but I don't want it going out of the county. I don't want to see waste management if I have a choice. I'm just one person.
I know, and I appreciate that. And like Mr. Johnson said, we do a lot of backdoor service. There's a lot of 2-rut roads in this county.
Yeah,
those big garbage companies aren't going to go down them. They're going to have to pull their stuff to the main grade, which there's a lot of elderly people that are unable to do that. So like the Johnsons, we go up to the house, we get it. That's a service you won't get from a big company.
But Ms. Sanders, we have helped. I mean, it's not like we haven't done anything. We have helped y'all.
Yeah, you have.
Okay.
But we're in a position where we were all assuming that once that $112 thing went through, we were going to be okay. You know,
None of
we
us,
would be
none
able
of
to
us were here
survive.
then. None of these commissioners sat here when that happened. I don't know what transpired.
At the workshop.
No, I'm talking about,
at the
you're
meeting?
talking about,
No, it was an
I'm talking
informal-
about, you said there was a county administrator who called you. I think that was Mr. Blanchard.
Yes, sir, it was.
Made that statement to you. I don't know.
It was an informal bargain.
Okay.
And granted, it's not in writing, so, you know, you're not held to it. It was just an informal bargain.
Now,
And before, we didn't hear about this informal.
No, you did not.
Until after our public hearing on the tipping fee.
Right.
Which was, for me, I mean, it was another argument in favor of the tipping fee, but when I heard about it, it was already not passed.
You're right.
How
And I did
different-
hear that from you. And Mr. Stewart had no idea about the informal bargain. He was not there either, so nobody was informed about it because it was not in writing, and I understand that.
okay.
But
Today we give you you get the bid and whatever. How difficult is it going to be for you to pick up the garbage between you and Mr. Johnson and 4 or 5 of your other haulers and so forth? You're going to have to pick up 16,000, 13,000. How difficult? Because if you can't pick up 13,000, we got to do something else.
But
You can work that out.
there are other companies besides us.
I understand that.
But we can't, I mean, we can't dictate that.
Oh,
Gary, I understand what you're saying. I think,
It's a bid process.
yes, and I mean, that's up to them whether they bid and are able, I mean, one bidder's going to get the contract, and then they're going to have to decide whether they want to do a subcontract. I want to move us along here so we get off this item, so we go home tonight, but,
That's fine.
and it's just good discussion. The motion on the floor is,
I'd like to have a workshop.
we're going to have a workshop, and we can talk more about it there. I think we can get all this aired out, because I have some ideas. Hindsight being 20/20, I wish now I'd voted for the $112. I think that's the way to go. I'm not crazy about this other idea, but I'm gonna listen to it, and if somebody can come tell me they'll pick it up for $25 a month, I'll be amazed.
That ain't gonna happen.
So, we'll see.
I'd like to work with Jones Evans if I could and look at their assessment they did, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
And at the workshop,
What I'd like to add, let's expedite a little bit, Alan. Let's try this. I want to do your workshop, but in the meantime, why don't we go on out for an RFQ, and let's find out what a company will come in here. I mean, let's don't wait till January, February to go decide we want to go out for an RFQ. Let's do it right now and get an RFQ out for.
I think that'd be a little premature, to be honest with you.
We're just,
And I think it'd
just
have some
these
expense
people.
involved.
I'm telling you right now, these people are going to go under. Those people just come up here and talk to you are going to go under.
Well, doing an RFQ for having a big company come in and pick up mandatory garbage pickup's not gonna help them.
Okay. What's going to help them right now is to do the $112 assessment.
That's correct.
And get the $85 off their back.
That's correct, and I've advocated that for years, but I want to see where that 112 came from. And Al, I know your workshop is to discuss curbside pickup, but surely we can discuss this at the same time.
What we need to do now, guys, is agree on a workshop like Ms. Arts was suggesting sooner than later. Let's pick a day. I don't care how long it takes to advertise it. We can do it this month if that's what it takes. I don't want to see those Mr. Johnson and Ms. Sanders go out of business.
I don't think anybody does.
And none of us do. And we want to help them. So, we got to expedite the process and have the workshop and decide which way we go, which road we go down. And we're going to have a consent order on us if we don't move quickly and get that landfill covered up.
Have I mentioned that?
No, but don't. It's coming. It's coming. So, and we're going to have fines that go with it if we don't move quickly. So I suggest that we find a date in December.
You do have a January 6th solid waste workshop. If you want to wait till January 6th, you could roll this in. If you want to do it in December, we can certainly look at it.
I'd like a little time to do some research, to be honest with you. I ran the landfill for 8 years, so I mean, I'm pretty familiar with solid waste issues. January 6th is fine with me, Alan, if that's...
It works for me. The issue to be aware of is the other workshop that night talking about roads is already a 2-hour workshop scheduled. We had a 1-hour workshop and a 2-hour workshop already scheduled. We can make it 2 2-hour workshops.
We'll be earning our money that night.
Because you're now going to be discussing 3 things. We did this if you discussed several solid waste issues.
The 6th is good for me as long as Auburn's not in that national championship.
I may have a conflict on the 6th.
Second.
I'm happy to do one in December.
Yeah, I think this is a very important issue. I think we should be moving forward with it as quickly as possible also. I can't reiterate enough. And I've written, I tried this to a forceful agenda item I've ever written. The way that I view this right now is I think we should be moving towards curbside recycling and solid waste pickup. The cost becomes such a much to pay someone or a company to come and pick up the trash at your house. Isn't from what I've seen, isn't that much more expensive than this? Pay a fee and make people have to drive it to the landfill. And that's where my frustration comes in.
And if you show us, if we can get a RFQ that says that, I'll vote for it. I'll say that now because I think it's worth that. I like all the reasons why, but I just think it's going to be. But remember, we've got to have an element in there, like this gentleman said, to close that landfill.
Right.
Somebody's got to suck that up. If we don't, we're going to still have to have an assessment of some amount to close the landfill, and that's going to be at least $1 million.
Well, then the question becomes, what do you want? Do you want any kind of let's do a workshop?
Yeah, that's right. How much time do we need to? I heard what you said, Randy. You need time. But
I mean, that's whatever y'all want to do is fine with me.
How long we need to advertise a workshop? A day? A week?
Yeah, I don't think...
Just a reasonable amount of time, a week would be sufficient.
tomorrow?
Certainly.
When? The next Monday.
Planning Commission meetings here.
With the
7, could we do 5 to 7? Planning Commission meets at 7. Could we do 5 to 7 on the 13th?
It'd probably be more like 5 to 6:30. Staff needs to get in and...
I'm sure this will come up Thursday night too, won't it? Our priorities.
How about the 16th? That work for everybody?
Thursday?
Yes, sir.
Works for me.
That good for everybody? 16th? That's good.
You'll have my associate here. I have a meeting on the 16th, but I can have another attorney
At
here.
5? Is that okay with everybody? And we'll go for the duration.
It's okay for me.
Okay? Is that okay? All right, let's set it. Somebody make a motion. We've got a motion on the floor now. We've got to dispose of that motion.
It's the same
Have a
motion.
workshop. You just need the minute to say do it on the 16th.
I don't know if you're a second for it, but yeah, to have the workshop on the 16th, starting at 5 p.m.
Second by Mr. Merritt. Any other discussion? All for the motion? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion 5-0. Carries. All right, so the 16th, 5 p.m.
As we get off the subject, one of the things to talk about if we decide to move forward with some sort of RFP, and it's going to have to discuss the workshop, is whether you want to think about that, because I don't know how much it's going to cost on a study performed to figure out how much it should cost. Talking about how the process works. But that's to give us comparable. Because right now we have Calhoun County as comparable. It's $150 a year. The thing also I wanted to mention about Calhoun County, it's in the notes. But I want to make sure we say it out loud so people at home who are watching can hear this. What Calhoun County does currently is they bill monthly, the private company, and then if for some reason the family does not pay their monthly bill, it moves to a solid waste assessment annually. And those are two different options. But billing monthly also makes your solid waste assessment go up higher, so then you're having to pay for staff and postage to process those monthly bills. So just something else to think about when we're talking about these things. This is a very important issue. I know it's close to a lot of people. Welcome the opportunity to discuss it more in our next workshop.
Okay. All right, moving right along. Commissioner Moore, you pulled your item, so my item is next, which is... Yes, ma'am.
I was going to make a motion.
We voted on that motion.
And I'll second that motion.
I was going to move to table this item to our priorities meeting because I think there's some policy issues that I would like to discuss as a board before we actually assign board members to specific committees. And some of the things, the length of the term and whether designated alternatives, whether there's input from the committee as to preference, some conflicts that some boards have with others that I don't think we're considering equity in terms of the committee assignments. So, I mean, I can talk about those now, but since we're meeting for priorities, I thought it wouldn't be much delay if we talk about some of them then, and maybe hash through some of that at the priorities meeting.
Well, it's my item. I guess you're just going to cut me off at the knees, but that's okay. I can hobble around on those too. I mean, this is just simply the committees that we've always had. It's nothing different. This is what we serve on, not individual committees that we have. These little citizen committees. That's going to be another issue. I'm not sure I understand what your contention is.
Well, and I apologize. I had meant to communicate some of these things to staff before the item went out, and it went out, and it was too late at that point.
Well, let's talk about it.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
I understood that the chairman makes these appointments, is that correct? Or do we make the appointments?
I asked for everybody's input, and based on the input that I got, and I was told that you were the only one that didn't supply input, but this is where we...
Because I wanted to have a discussion.
But you were asked for input, correct?
Right.
Okay, and you didn't provide any input.
Well, I provided input to staff about some of my concerns, not to Jessica. I expressed some concerns to Jennifer, and that I wish to have a discussion. And if you want to indulge the discussion now, or if we can do it on the...
I want to dispose of this item tonight, yes ma'am.
Okay.
I'll put it on here.
Okay, well then I'll just wait till we get to the discussion then.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to accept these appointments as noted? Moved by Mr. Brock, seconded by Mr. Merritt. Now go ahead, Ms. Arts.
Okay, one of the things that when we get to setting priorities, my recommendation is that we set 2-year priorities. And with board appointments, I think I have the same recommendation that appointments be 2 years. We as a group serve together for 2 years, and it provides some continuity, I think, for our committees. A second issue, so that these appointments be not just 1 year, that we'll be making them for 2 years, which gives, you have to think through a few issues on if you accept that. I think that the committee should be equitably allocated, and I don't know that anybody's really ever tried to look at how much time is involved with any one of these appointments. But I'll give you an example. Canvassing board. Canvassing board on an off-election year serves 0 hours. During an election year, 40, 80 hours. If there's recounts, it could be a full week. I mean, so if you're going to do the canvassing board, there needs to be some consideration, I think, to what as opposed to one that meets quarterly and is a total of 4 to 8 hours. So that's an issue. Also, having now served on both the Value Adjustment Board and the Canvassing Board in the fall, I think it's a mistake to assign somebody to both of those boards in the fall. I ran into conflicts on scheduling, and they're both committees that are difficult to schedule enough as it is. So it shouldn't be a commissioner, I think, adding to the scheduling difficulties. Another issue has to do with, and if the canvassing board, it can't be somebody who's up for election. So again, that has issues for your Value Adjustment Board if you are going to do separate appointments.
In some of these cases, we have one person assigned as an alternate, one or two cases. I personally would like to have an alternate, either a board member or a staff member for every committee. That if I can't make a meeting, that there either be another board member or a staff member who goes. And I think that's important. So I would expand this to include board or staff alternates. On one of these, the Appalachia Planning Council, there are two of us listed, which creates sunshine issues if we both go. And the two listed, they want two appointments, but they want a county elected official and a city elected official. So we shouldn't both, Commissioner Merritt and I shouldn't be both on this. One needs to be, we need to get somebody from the city, and then one of us can be an alternative to the other.
That's what I had assumed it was. You're right. You're right. It is. It's just not out. That's the way it was written.
Okay, well. Okay, that was clear that one was an alternate on one of the items. It wasn't clear on that one. Also, this is a little awkward, but I think it would be helpful to get some input from the committees that we're serving on. Because, and I'm going to use myself as an example, there's one group I serve on, I've been a long-term member, I've been there almost every single meeting. When they heard these were going to be assigned, they wanted to pass a resolution for me to continue. They want me there. I've got another committee that I like just fine, and I've been trying to do a good job, but I regularly have difficulty attending their meetings. I've missed their last 3. And so they might really like to have another person. But yet we never ask them, it's just like who wants them. And it would be a little awkward, but I think if staff could maybe touch base and say, how's the attendance been? Are you ready for a change, or would you like to specifically request your same person? I just think that would be kind of a courtesy. And then also with the Value Adjustment Board, I think we need to have one person who has served previously as well as a new member. And I mean, these are just sort of some that in the consideration of who goes into what committee be considered. Now, in some cases we've accomplished these things, in some cases we haven't, but I wanted to just ask that we could have a discussion and first reach some agreement on the policy things before we plug in people's names. And I do note that with the current list, I'm currently assigned to 6, which is more than anybody else by, in some cases, double or triple, which, again, unless you look at the hours, is a little difficult to know whether that's an equitable allocation or not. So, I mean, if we want to go through each one and talk about that, I mean, we can. I was hoping, again, we could maybe do this at our retreat. Go ahead.
Let's go. Well, I'm appointed to 6 committees. Not the point. I think we should have 1 year. Just the first issue you touched on was 1 year appointments, and then if we move, because what we do for people at home who don't understand our procedure currently is we request what committees we're going to be on. If we have a reason we want to be on that committee, we can include it in our request, so that when we request it to the chair next year, we can put in there. I feel that it's important that I serve on this committee for a 2nd year because this is going to help us actually accomplish this stated goal. Or if not, that way, if there's for some reason, let's say, you mentioned a committee you're having problems with, you're not obligated there for another 2 years. If you are appointed up this year, you can get out of it next year.
Currently.
Yes.
Hey, Ms. Art, what committees do you not want to serve on? We'll change it right now.
Well, if this board thinks, if the consensus is that 1 year is all we're looking at,
I think it needs to be
1 year. Okay.
I mean, if we make 2 years tonight, what happens next year? because some of us only have 1 year left. I know that 2 years runs out. I mean, if,
No, none of us have 1 year, we all have 2 years. Okay.
never mind. Go ahead. I'm fine with 1 year. I think that's the way it needs to stay. I've heard.
Okay.
Who else? Anybody else think it needs to be any different than 1 year?
Whatever it's been in the past, I mean, it seems to work fine.
Okay, well then canvassing board, even though Commissioner Moore is not on, is on it, I don't think you're going to be doing anything this year. But I don't know who's going to be on it the next year. I'm just telling you, that is a major time commitment, and I think assignments should be balanced so that, you know, and if Commissioner Moore is continued on that next year, I think he's great for the Value Adjustment Board, but then I don't think he should be considered for the Canvassing Board the following year.
Would you like the canvassing board the second year?
I can't do it.
What conflict does Canvassing Board and Value Adjustment Board have? I don't understand. I've been on both for 3 times. I don't understand the conflict. There is no conflict.
Well, I had times with both Eleanor was asking me to hold dates, and Buddy, the supervisor of elections, was trying to schedule meetings for the canvassing board. We were trying to change a meeting, and there was a date Evelyn was asking me to hold, and I was having to tell Buddy, no, I can't do those dates, and he's got a judge that he's also trying to juggle with.
Okay.
That's just, I mean,
there's no conflict between the two other than just dates. I mean, that's life. We gotta work around dates, but
no, but they both work in the fall, though. That's the deal. They both are heavy in the fall.
Okay. That is next year, though, right, Ms. Arts? So if we do 1 year terms, we can address that conflict next time we appoint committees? You said?
Yes.
Okay.
If they're 1 year terms, that would be an issue for a year from now.
So are you telling me, again, what the question is, which committees do you not want to serve on? Which do you not feel comfortable serving on?
Well, and I'm happy, I can do all of these. I'm not unhappy with any of them. I would probably prefer to not be on the Value Adjustment Board. Okay. Except I just said that I think somebody who has served on the Value Adjustment Board should serve.
Okay, I'll serve on it, and Commissioner Moore, if you don't mind being the primary, I'll be the alternate.
That'll be fine.
Okay. Okay, then I'll do it.
You and Moore.
Got it. Good. Okay, what other one, Miss Arts?
Okay, and Alan, would you have any willingness to switch the Wakulla County Coalition for Youth with Transportation Disadvantaged? I think you're on that one.
Monopoly.
I was looking forward to serving on the Wakulla County Coalition for Youth. I would gladly sacrifice that, but I don't want the transportation to disadvantage.
And I think it's fair Mr. Brock stay there because he provided the input like was asked of every commissioner, and I think he should stay there.
And that's the group that, when I asked them last Wednesday, that's the group that wanted to pass a resolution, but it was a little late in the process to communicate that. So, okay, that's fine, that's fine.
It's not that I'm all for transportation of disadvantage, so you've done a lot of work in that category already.
No, I was talking about the Coalition for Youth. Okay. All right, well, that's fine. I still think some of these issues, I hope, will be considered in next year, or when staff is trying to put this together. So that's fine, and I'll serve on the ones that are here.
Okay. So with those changes, you made the motion, Mr. Brock?
I did.
Those changes, friendly changes?
They're friendly changes. I'd be glad to, if the Commissioner Arts would like to be an alternate in case I can't make the County Youth Coalition meeting, I'll be glad to let you know.
Well, I'd really like to see that for all of them, quite frankly, but that's fine. If you can't make that one, let me know. I'll go. I may sit in. Anyway.
Okay. second fine with that? Mr. Merritt? Yes, it is. Okay. Any other discussion? All for the motion, say aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank y'all. Starts. Your item.
Okay, at the FAC legislative meeting, Dr. James Ammons, the president of FAMU, gave a really enlightening presentation. He pointed out how poorly Florida scores in terms of dental health. And he has a proposal that he is encouraging counties to support. And that is a school of dental medicine at FAMU. And he specifically requested a resolution of support for our county, which is included. So I move, and I hope you've had a chance to look through the supporting information about how poorly Florida and Wakulla County is doing in this important health area. So I move to approve the resolution in support of establishing a School of Dental Medicine at FAMU, and to send the resolution to our legislative delegation at the state and to the Florida Board of Governors who oversee universities.
Second. Motion by Ms. Arts and a second by Mr. Brock. Discussion? All for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And County Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have just two items. In both of them, I'm looking for an appointment from the board to assist your county legal counsel in mediating and settling a couple lawsuits. The first one is Crum versus Wakulla County, and the second one is the Log Creek case that we just discussed. I know that Commissioner Stewart has actually volunteered to do both of them.
I make a motion we appoint Mr. Stewart to... When did I do that? I didn't know I did both, but that's fine.
Well, you did the Crum one, and this is just the second part of it, and then earlier I thought I heard you say that.
Let's go, let's proceed.
Well, I would say something. That's okay. That's fine. I'll accept that. So, Mr. Merritt, you made the motion to appoint me to both? Yes, both. Mr. Brock seconded. Citizens to be heard? All for the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hold on there. I got to come back. And that's it. County Administrator?
Just remind everybody, we have our board retreat on Thursday, 4 to 8, Public Library. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Discussion issues by commissioners. Mr. Moore?
I'll be brief. I think we have a no-hire policy. Is that correct at this time? That we will not be hiring anybody? How does that go?
Well, essentially, we've pretty much been under a hiring freeze for the last couple of years. We don't hire anybody unless it's fire and EMS.
Okay, basically, I'd like to add one thing to that. Everybody that I talk to wants smaller government, less expensive government, and I would like to make a motion that we don't replace anybody who leaves. If someone leaves county government, that person is not replaced.
Okay, excluding fire and ambulance.
Excluding fire and ambulance.
Excluding the county administrator.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
And the county attorney too?
Motion by Mr. Moore. Do I hear a second? I'll second it, but I want to be sure your original discussion says with board approval, not just...
That's correct.
I mean, if Frank quits, we got to have it.
With board approval, that's correct.
Are we talking about eliminating the position?
No.
Just not holding the position open?
If someone leaves, other than, of course, we have to replace the attorney, we have to replace the administrator. Those are single positions. But I would not want to rehire anybody in county government that position. If somebody leaves voluntarily, then I want to cut down the size of county government. And without board approval, I don't want to hire somebody. That makes sense?
Yeah, I understand. It does to me. The key part is without board approval.
Without board approval.
So, what you're suggesting then is, let's say Debbie leaves, we would then debate the need for Debbie's position here.
Exactly.
That's correct.
And decide if we still need that position or not. I just think Debbie had tried to figure out who I could talk about.
I had to pick on it.
So that we know, so we can debate that.
That is correct. I just don't want to, I don't want to hire without me knowing somebody's being hired. I want the opportunity not to.
Okay. Ms. Arts?
Yeah, I would like the county attorney to provide some information about what our roles are, because it's my understanding that we can't get involved in personnel kind of matters, and I don't think,
What you're doing is giving direction to the county administrator, whoever's sitting.
We would say who to hire. We would just say replace this position.
Replace or not replace.
but then we're getting into a discussion now about a job category, and, you know, is this job position worthwhile and whatever, and I just, is that overstepping our...
I don't think we're saying it's worthwhile. I think we're saying, do we have the fiscal means to fill it again? And I think that's the decision of the board then to make that decision.
I think it's having control of the budget, personally, is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
That's the only control we have over the county government, really, is the budget. We can't say, get rid of some people or hire some people.
All right, I'd rather just tell the administrator we want the budget set at X amount, and you come back with proposals about how to do that. And then when somebody who may be really vital is, and then they have to come and make a case to us that that's a vital position.
But then you're forcing him to lay people off. If you set the budget at this, then he's going to have to say, this many people's got to lose their jobs. What Mr. Moore is saying is, we're going to look at it as we go, or we're going to refill this position. Is it vital? And the administrator's going to have to come in and do a tap dance and sell to us, I got to have this position. Now, I don't need this position. And it's going to be the board who says, yay or nay. I think it's a good idea.
Do you want to put a time limit on this for the entire fiscal year?
When does the fiscal year end?
Next October.
Commissioners, if I may, we're always looking to cut back. I mean, tight budget times, if we get a position that becomes available, we'll look to cut it before we look to fill it. But of course, if there's an essential position, if it's the planning director, or if it's, you know, the EMS director, I mean, we're probably going to bring it back to you, and we're going to make the case that we need the position. So, we'll probably absorb the position in-house without even taking it to you if somebody leaves that we don't feel is essential that needs to be refilled.
That's basically my drift, is you fulfill the position in-house and not replace the position unless you bring it to us and we all agree that that's a position should.
Absolutely. I don't see a problem with following through on that. Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Since this is a discussion item, I think what we've done in the past is that it has to be unanimous in part so that it advertised citizens can speak, there's an agenda item, whatever. Maybe I'm wrong. This seems like a fairly substantive kind of thing.
I do believe that a discussion item would have to have the vote of 5, so I'll bring this back as an agenda item.
I think that would be better.
She is correct on that. I'll bring it back as an agenda item.
If somebody's not going to vote for it, I'm assuming you wouldn't vote for it if we had a vote?
It doesn't have to be a 5-vote.
That's correct.
That's his point.
Yeah, I think it would be better to bring it back with a, you know, it's not something that I had any discussions, anything to read about.
All right, I'll bring it back. Don't hire anybody in the meantime.
Okay. The next items are mine. Some notes here. We'll let Ms. Hartz. She don't have any items. Does she have any items, Ms. Hartz? Thank you. Great, thank you.
Always got to watch out, Ms.
I just want to let you know that I've been appointed to the FACT Board of Directors, just so that you board members know that I'm on that now. That's our Florida Association County Trust. That's our insurance. We're one of 20 counties that are in that consortium, if you will, to pay for legal fees for certain cases as they arise and are turned over to the FACT. the road paving matrix. Don't we have a workshop coming up on that soon?
The roads. Talking about the roads. I don't know which way the matrix is.
But all of you should have gotten one of these. Did everybody get that?
I got the original.
Well, this is a revised one, so you need to throw the original away. But I want us to be prepared to talk about this at that meeting, please. And this is very important. That should be to all of us, but especially to me, because you and I are the ones who developed this back when you worked for the county.
Well, you suggested it. I actually did it. But anyway,
and we. Okay, so you did it. That's the way it's supposed to work, Mr. Mayor.
That's right. That's right. Good stuff.
Anyway, that's that. So, any other items? Mr. Merritt, you got anything before we close?
I do, but I'll let Mr. Brock go first.
I just briefly want to mention, I talked about the United Way earlier, and I was at the forums. If you're interested in donating for Wakulla County, you're outside on the outside deck. Also, more information about the volunteer income tax assistance program going on in Wakulla County. Those forms are also outside. Feel free to pick them up, share them with people you think might be interested. Please do.
A couple items very quickly. None of them asking for a vote. I'd like to look into. I started talking with Mr. Barton and our attorney about some sort of solar rebate program for this county. I believe if people had an incentive to install a solar hot water heater and they got a credit on their property tax, they'd feel more comfortable instead of giving the money to government. At least they're getting something out of it to help save energy. Now, the big question is, how do you fund it? And I'm looking at a couple options. This probably won't even come up till next budget year, but I'd like y'all to maybe start thinking about it. Could possibly be a small tax on somebody's power bill, very small. But anyway, that's one item I'm thinking about. Another item is a carpooling messaging board, because if you drive back and forth to Tallahassee, a lot of vehicles only have one person in them. I talked to the county's webmaster. I think if we could do it very cheap, have a little tab on there where citizens could exchange information, such as, I'm driving to the Copper Top building at 8 o'clock every day. If you give me $20 a week, you can ride with me every day. You know, something that simple. Set it up, little tab on the county's website. Don't police, just let it go. Of course, unless somebody starts doing something weird, and just let it run on its own. And at least give someone the arena, I guess, to put these things out there. Right now, there's nowhere like that unless you go to a church or something. Just put a pegboard up. In the process of hiring the county administrator, just a quick thought, there's going to be probably going to be a lot of people apply for it that we're friends with, or at least some of us are, and we know. I want to try to keep it as anonymous as possible. I know there's sunshine law we have to follow with, but I'd prefer not to see one of us advocating for their certain person up here, because somebody's feelings are probably going to get hurt in the end, and I'd like to keep it as anonymous as possible, even though nobody's saying anybody's better than anybody else. I think you all understand what I'm saying. Number 4, impact fee study. I got up and spoke about this item back in 2007, and I want to look at the impact fee study again. I wrote extensive comments on it about some assumptions that just were incorrect, and I'm going to look at it again. The ordinance is about this thick, but the study has solid math, and if I use the formulas set up in the study, I'd like to present back to the board tweaking the assumptions. For the example, the road impact fee is based on the assumption that it costs $2.6 million to pave a mile of roads. We know that's not true, okay? And the law enforcement impact fee is based on the assumption that the sheriff has 100,000 square feet of office space. He does not have 100,000 square feet of office space. What I'm trying to get at is our impact fee is based on this study. This study is flawed, and I want to look at the study, go in and re-look again at all the assumptions that were made in this study, and come up with a new number. I'd like to do that myself, and I'll present what I find to y'all maybe at a future workshop. Not something I'm wanting to jump on right now. Item 5, and the last item, is the proposed 12-inch force main that we're contemplating on borrowing $2.something million to build, that was supposed to serve Wakulla Gardens, which is no longer going to get sewer. I don't think we need to be borrowing that much money right now. What's been bid out is a 12-inch force main from the Otter Creek wastewater plant all the way up Spring Creek It goes to Wakulla Gardens, but there is no gravity sewer in Wakulla Gardens, and there is no plan to put any there right now. That fell through. So what we're looking at borrowing millions of dollars for is a dry line 12-inch PVC force main with 3 lift stations. To me, it's a force main to nowhere. You know, when we get sewer in Wakulla Gardens, then we'll build a force main. Now, you may say, well, we need it for Talcon to hook up. Well, no, I don't think we really do. I mean, I've been talking to Tim Waddle. I think there's a way we can have Talcon build a pump station, tap into the existing 12-inch force main that's already there, and not cost citizens anything. I mean, if that's possible, I'd like to look at it. I just want everybody to really think that we're borrowing $2 million. We don't have the additional connections to pay back the money.
What level of discussion are we allowed to have during discussion items on agenda items? Because there are a couple things brought up that I'd like to talk about, but I think might need to come back.
Yeah, I think you need to agenda these, Randy, and talk
I just
about
want to get y'all's juices flowing on what I'm going to be talking about, so at least, you know, you start researching or whatever.
I haven't, like, for the sewer in Wakulla Gardens, I haven't heard anyone say that we're not sewering Wakulla Gardens. I know we've talked about alternatives, but it's always been a problem when I check the staff is we're still not dealing with that.
Let's agenda and bring it back. That one you probably
It's something to check into
later.
Yeah.
That one I want to get to work on soon. I don't want to.
Yeah, we need to work on it soon before we tell somebody we're going to spend $2 million.
Is that it?
That's it for me.
I have some. Yes, sir.
I just have a question and a comment. It came to my attention that we had, that we're going to be paving, I believe, Old Shell Point Road, Cleve.
Yes.
We were going to be paving it.
We still are.
Okay. So we paved something else instead of paving Old Shell Point, or is it because we didn't?
No, I can tell you just.
Okay.
Sit down, please. we chose to pave this little road right over here, and we chose to pave Concord.
Doesn't seem like a good choice.
Well, that's your opinion, and then you can have that. There's a lot of other people who live on those roads who would argue with you. And but the gentleman, I mean, the people who want Old Shell Point Road paved have not come through on their end of the bargain completely. And I talked to that guy today, and we're working the last person to give us the right of way.
Okay.
The money, some money has been moved by a vote we did tonight in the consent agenda to move some of that money that was set aside for that road, but there's still adequate funds there to pave it.
Okay.
But we're still waiting for right of way. That's why that road has not been paved.
I beg your pardon.
And these two roads, if you go ask those folks, they're very happy that they're
I'm sure they are. I have no problem with that. I just want to. Old Shell Point Road is a great outlet for the county,
and
I mean, it's a great outlet, and
sure.
I've heard it. I've been here 6 years, and the first thing I saw is I said, well, you know, why am I making this bend on this road? Why don't we go straight down that road? So 6 years later, we're still talking about it.
Please said that the clearing started on that road shortly, earlier tonight. He's coming up here. One more thing I forgot to mention, I want to mention. You heard me talk about the Big Brothers Big Sisters Big Catch Fish Fry, where we raised about $4,000 for our efforts to do mentoring in Wakulla County. We are now at a little over $16,000 towards a $20,000 goal, so we can hire a part-time person in Wakulla County. The Big Brothers Big Sisters is moving forward with hiring on the assumption we're going to finish raising this money, so if you want to donate, please do. But the position is being advertised on their website, Tallahassee. So Google Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Big Bend if you're interested in this part-time position to help organize mentoring programs in Wakulla County.
Okay, we have never varied. The paving order is Old Bethel. We're probably 3/4 of the way through with Old Bethel, and we're moving to Old Shell Point. Right away it's miserable. It goes slow, and but we have started, or will be started this week, clearing the last section of Old Bethel. The clearing contractor is he's authorized to work, and we actually took him to Old Shell Point and told him where to start. In a couple of weeks, when he's done with this end of Old Bethel, or the last end of Old Bethel, he will move to Old Shell Point. And,
What's your right-of-way on Old Shell Point? What's going to be the width of that road?
the width of the road is going to be about 22 foot.
So it's going to be a good road to carry.
Yeah, but you don't have, I mean, your right-of-way is going to be 40 foot or...
Okay, right, the width of well.
Okay. While we're talking about the paving projects of Concord and Brim Fountain, I would like to remind everybody, Brim Fountain is now a one-way access for a one-way street going from 319 to Raywinkle. That road was so narrow we could not pave 2 lanes. We changed it this morning at 9 o'clock. We got the signs up, we got arrows up. It's been in the newspaper, so it just we're going to have the sheriff's department is going to be there helping us next few days to turn people around. But that is a one-way street now.
While Cleve's sitting down, I'll say one more thing, and I'm so sorry, Mike.
You hurt my feelings.
Take your. I just happened to have the opportunity to visit the humane shelter. Take your children by there sometime before Christmas, and I'm sure they will want to adopt one of the dogs or one of the cats. But by all means, take your children by the Humane Society. They need to see it. Sarge?
Yeah, I'm excited to hear Randy talking about solar credit. And one of the things we voted on tonight actually is the PACE ordinance, which does kind of what you're thinking, so I know our attorney can fill you in more on that. No, but it's great. It's great. We have done a little work on that, so I'm glad you're enthusiastic. And then the last thing I wanted to say to all the board and to everybody, this is our last formal board meeting before the holidays. So, happy holidays, everybody. Yeah.
One or two things I just wanted to talk about for us. Probably you can listen or not, but is just some housekeeping here. I want to encourage us, all of us, to talk to, I mean, take it for what it's worth. I'm just the chairman. I'm just asking you to consider, please, talking to staff prior to the meeting and to try to resolve issues so that you have all the information that you need in your hands when you get here. And I'm not pointing to any one particular person. Sometimes I'm guilty of not doing a good job of that. If you go do that, that's why we pay them. We pay them good money to have answers for us. And if they don't have the answers, they'll go get them. But use them. And I encourage you to do that. Don't circumvent them. They need to be kept in the loop, especially the county administrator. And I also always suggest that you talk to the county attorney so that you are on good legal standing before you come here and talk about anything you want to talk about. And then they're prepped as well to help us understand what the ramifications are of anything that we do. And I think that's important. We've got to use those guys, otherwise we might as well just get rid of them. The other thing is we need to streamline the meetings. I'm going to make the meetings go as quickly as you guys allow the meetings to go. And I want us to talk as much as we need to talk and on all the items. I'm not saying that let's don't do that. But I want us to try to get to where we're not. If we put an item on the agenda, we ought to dispose of it. Let's don't put it off if we don't have to, unless there's a good reason to table it and put it off. Let's don't put it off. Let's dispose of it. And I mean, that's fair to the citizens. They're expecting us to do the business of the county, and I think we need to be diligent in doing that. So let's try to dispose of as many things as we can in a meeting so that they don't just keep building up and we have workshops after workshops and months just keep sliding by and the government wheel just grinds to a halt. So that's all I'm asking, is that we try to do a better job of that, and I think we can. I'm encouraged by the discussion tonight, and we were able to get a lot of things done, and I appreciate your patience with me, and we'll get better as we go, and I'll hear an adjournment motion. And we're done. Thank y'all.
Son, looking forward to reading that article. So how many thousands of dollars